When it begins on a completely normal day in the heart of Korea. Crowds mind their own business, and that guy right there, no doubt about it, he is our main character. Pretty handsome, actually. But honestly, staring at his phone like that is going to ruin his posture. He is so incredibly distracted that he walks directly into a stranger. The guy immediately snaps at him, which is honestly fair, so he apologizes. Just a boring, totally average day, but right when he thinks that, a massive, deafening noise suddenly echoes through the entire street. It forces everyone to halt in pure confusion before they can process it. Boom, a second explosion rips through the air, a massive yellow lightning strike crashes down just a few steps away and completely vaporizes several people. Everyone freezes in terror as the sheer impact sends cars flying like toys. Then, making a bad situation even worse, a barrage of lightning begins. These are no ordinary strikes, they are more like destructive mini-meteors. Terrified citizens run for their lives, and trust me, they had to. What seemed like a freak accident is now a full-blown electrical apocalypse. One strike causes absolute chaos, now imagine 10,000 of them. Our unlucky main character is just another terrified face in the fleeing crowd. He spots a girl struggling nearby and decides this is his moment. He shouts for her to follow him to safety, hoping to actually do some good. But she gets incredibly lucky when an ambulance suddenly pulls up to rescue her. Just like that, her escape is secured. She is safe from the madness. Left behind, our hero keeps on running, tears streaming down his face. He is utterly terrified and completely traumatized by the sheer horror. But bad luck is not done with him. A massive truck rushes right toward him. It is about to send him straight to another world, right before impact. A blinding white flash covers his vision, pulling him away. He gets sucked into a mysterious rift just as another bolt strikes. A similar blast hits a dark, unfamiliar forest where night has fallen. It is unclear how much time went by, but he somehow managed to survive. He wakes up dazed, still shaken by that near-fatal encounter. But his focus quickly shifts. Where on earth has he ended up? Looking up, he spots giant birds that look like absolute nightmare creatures. Then he notices two moons in the sky. This is definitely not Korea. That shocking realization hits him harder than any lightning bolt. To make matters worse, he is absolutely freezing, not just his hands, but his entire body. One thing is totally certain now. This is definitely not Earth. He looks around in complete confusion. Several strange beasts are lurking nearby. He wonders what is happening. And more importantly, why is he completely naked? He quickly stands up, only to gasp in shock as he comes face to face with a massive bear. Before he can react, a pack of wild wolves suddenly lunges at him. The scene shifts to a doctor reviewing some files, mentioning his bizarre awakening. He woke up in a monster-infested forest under two glowing moons. It is a miracle he even made it back alive from there. The terrifying image of that defeated giant bear flashes through his mind. Now a pack of hungry wolves tears into the carcass while he watches in despair. But then things get worse. A massive white wolf creeps up right behind him. Sensing the danger, the boy spins around and immediately bolts into a desperate sprint. Pushing his body to the absolute limit, a strange system message suddenly pops up. It announces that his constitution has officially leveled up to level 1. Confused, he suddenly trips over a rock and starts tumbling head over heels. He falls straight off a cliff. Somehow, he manages to grab onto some bushes. Dangling there, he barely survives, deeply confused about that bizarre mechanical sound. When he scans his new surroundings, he spots a cluster of strange, glowing fruit. His stomach is growling. Are these wild things actually safe to eat? Glancing closer, he notices a trail of wild ants happily munching on them. Good enough, he eats without hesitation until a sudden rustling breaks the quiet woods. A pair of glowing, predatory eyes glares at him from the thick undergrowth. A massive snake strikes at the boy, only to get instantly swallowed by a giant frog. The young guy stands frozen, completely unable to process the absolute chaos of this place. This forest is completely insane, or maybe he is the one going mad. 67 grueling days pass in a flash since he first woke up in this nightmare. Worse yet, that same relentless pack of wolves has been tracking his every move. They simply refuse to give up, keeping him constantly paranoid of a sudden ambush. Wolves are the least of his worries. This place is crawling with monsters. He desperately needs a secure shelter and fast. Before he knows it, a whole year goes by. Having survived a full 12 months, he spots some food hanging high above. He reaches up to grab an absolutely massive banana, triggered by his intense hunger. Instantly, the system chimes in to announce his strength has finally reached level 1. Look at him now, the guy is getting seriously, impressively shredded. Constant danger has forced him to adapt to this unforgiving wilderness. Oddly enough, a persistent wolf pup has been trailing him everywhere he goes. He got so used to the little guy that he actually missed its company. Suddenly, debris falls on his back. He looks up and freezes. A monstrously huge gorilla is charging straight down at him with pure rage. With razor-sharp reflexes, he narrowly dodges the beast, snapping the branch he held. He taunts the giant ape, telling him to try having better luck next time. The beast crashes down hard, hurtling directly toward the poor little wolf pup. It hits the pup dead on. The boy can only watch in horror. The gorilla stands back up, glaring down at the helpless, injured creature. As it prepares to strike, the boy is already leaping into action. He strikes the gorilla directly in the eye, but it barely registers. No luck, the ape hurls the boy directly into a solid tree. The monster immediately charges again, leaving him frustrated with his choice. He admits it was a stupid mistake, and the scene cuts to a doctor. She asks if he really did all that, and the boy replies honestly. He simply could not keep running away from constant territorial battles. Running solves nothing because some king of the jungle always rules. Back in the forest, the massive gorilla closes in to crush him. Instead of attacking, the wolf steps in to protect the kid, who suddenly passes out. The wolf pack immediately swarms the massive gorilla. The boy honestly thought he was dead. Yet the beasts leave him completely untouched. They seem to recognize him. It turns out he saved a cub earlier, who just happens to be the Wolf King's offspring. He is the leader of the fierce Crimson Wolves. Some time passes after that crazy encounter. Now a whole pack of wolves is seen sprinting through the wild. Right alongside them is our main character, keeping pace. He glances to his side. His wolf companion is clearly exhausted, so he scoops him up to carry him. 2 entire years fly by since he first got lost in this brutal wild. By now, the wolves have fully accepted him as one of their own. 3 years in, and he is masterfully scaling trees and cliffs like a total natural. But he is still hopelessly stuck in this deep, endless green forest. He has found absolutely zero signs of human life. He has fully embraced his life as a wolf fighting brutal territory wars alongside them. Every single day is a bloody struggle to keep his new family alive. 120 years pass, unbelievable, but he is somehow still going. Living on this unforgiving planet means a non-stop, brutal struggle to survive. He makes allies along the way, but loses many to the constant war. He completely loses track of time, unable to even remember the exact date anymore. Centuries fly by, and he has no idea how he is still alive. Back in civilization, a doctor asks if he spent 500 years as their king. They are dying to know how he ever managed to find his way back to Earth. He explains that it all started with a massive war against the gorilla clan. They were fighting over the lunar hill, sparking a conflict of epic proportions. Right in the thick of the chaos, he charged headfirst at their enemy. But mid-strike, a bizarre distortion rips through the air. He is instantly warped away, opening his eyes to a completely unfamiliar place. Nearby, a girl monitors her equipment, warning that dimensional energy levels are spiking dangerously. Her partner quickly orders her to transmit those coordinates to the portal team. She hits the key, but it is already too late as a massive rift tears open. Chaos erupts instantly as people scream and scramble to get away from the blast zone. A sudden explosion knocks everyone flat on their backs in absolute shock. The guy panics, crying out that he does not want to die here. Meanwhile, the girl draws her weapon, ready to buy them some time to escape. She urges him to run while he frantically radios headquarters for emergency backup. The swirling portal looms directly in front of the brave girl. She yells at the portal to back off, or she will slice them to pieces. But instead of a monster, a human silhouette begins to take shape. She freezes in absolute disbelief, completely paralyzed by what she is seeing. Suddenly, a raw, primal roar echoes from the center of the rift. The young man finally steps out of the portal, and the girl slowly approaches him. Her partner is stunned, unable to believe that a real human actually just emerged. The girl is left trembling, wondering what that terrifying, crushing pressure was. She had never felt anything like it, not even from the most dangerous dungeon bosses. Who or what had she actually just crossed paths with? Since the situation is finally resolved, they need to call an ambulance for the returnee immediately. First responders rush to the scene. Meanwhile, the professor takes a moment to thank him. He is deeply grateful. His statements and health checks will go straight to headquarters. The awakened central office needs this data. Luckily, he looks perfectly fine physically. He can leave in a few days, but then he calls the doctor back. He says it is his first real conversation with a civilized person in 1,000 years. He sincerely thanks him for listening. The doctor is quiet for a moment. He tells the kid his story is incredibly valuable. They should be the ones thanking him. With a warm smile, he steps out. Walking down the hall, his mind wanders. That kid is a fascinating case. Such vivid details, he could write a novel. He has a wild imagination. Meanwhile, over at the awakened central office, Choi looks over the files, asking if they are absolutely sure this data is correct. It just feels off to her. The clerk next to her asks what the issue is. She points at the registry. His card clearly lists him as a measly F rank. The man sighs, explaining F ranks are rare. It is a pity he is not an E rank. An E rank would get government benefits. Choi just stares at the card. If he is really an F rank, he is basically just a normal guy. How does an ordinary human survive slipping through a portal? Is this a mistake? The guy shrugs, saying he just got lucky. He stumbled through and survived. He randomly found a return stone. He hands over the doctor's latest update. Do you want to see the report? Choi takes the file and starts skimming. It lists symptoms common among low-level returnees suffering from severe trauma. Apparently, he is acting like a wild wolf. She pauses, remembering his face. Was that intense? Predator look just her imagination. She checks the name. Is this file really for the returnee named Park? Her coworker nods. Yes, that is him. Even F ranks deserve proper medical care and attention. Choi offers to deliver the documents to him personally. The man looks puzzled. He asks why she cares so much. She simply wants to see him again. She needs to see him with her own eyes. 2 weeks pass in a flash. Park spent 1,000 years surviving another world. Part of him wants to go back. Earth feels completely alien now. Everything is too fast, too strange. He has no idea how to live a normal life anymore. Then, a knock. A nurse comes in with a tray, telling him it is lunch time. She hands him the food. Park is starving and digs in immediately. A moment later, Choi walks in. She watches him eat with quiet curiosity. He eats like an animal. Sensing her presence, Park looks up. This is Choi from the awakened central office. Park slowly stands up. He sniffs the air, muttering that she smells like that blonde person. It is a familiar scent. Choi smiles, reminding him she was at the portal. She remembers how much he looked like a deadly predator back then. But now she wonders if her senses were just playing tricks on her. Park finishes off his food with a sigh. That was actually pretty good. He asks what this awakened office is. Choi frowns at his casual tone. Why is he talking to her so informally? Park just shrugs. He is over 1,000 years old, after all. She clearly does not believe him. This organization was designed specifically to help returnees adjust to society. Important stuff. Because of that, these files held all his crucial details. He had plenty of time to read them, but for now, just a sigh. Park agrees to share his info. He reluctantly picks up the pen. Nostalgia hits hard. It had been centuries since he held a pen. Even after a millennium, humanity is still using these simple tools. Park quickly signs his name while Choi watches, silently calling him an idiot. Right after that, she calls his name. Park asks what she wants. Choi looks him over. Did he learn how to draw in that place? Park calmly replies that he already knew how to draw before he vanished. She presses further, any magic, martial arts. Nothing like that. Park explains he only did what was needed to survive. Choi scoffs, noting that he spent 10 years just running around. To be a true returnee, you have to kill monsters for energy. But him, pure luck. She believes he only made it through that brutal dimension by accident. Park narrows his eyes. He was not there for 10 years. Try 1,000. He survived in that harsh forest for 10 centuries. Choi snaps back in frustration. 10 years, not 1,000. He is mistaken. Check the files. She commands him to look closely at his data. He vanished in 2015. He returned in 2025. Park stares at the paper, absolutely stunned. She is completely right. Choi hands over his awakened identification and prepares to leave. She warns him that hospital damages will be deducted from his expenses. Once recovered, he should go straight back to his family. With a brief goodbye, she walks out, leaving him alone. Alone with his thoughts, he wonders if his family is even alive. Years ago, he assumed everyone on Earth would be long dead. He had abandoned hope completely. Now he has to cope with losing his beloved forest family of 1,000 years. But maybe he was wrong. After all, only 10 years actually passed. He looks closer at the official documents, his eyes widen in shock. His parents actually died on the very day he disappeared. But there is still hope. His younger brother, Juno, is still alive. Terrified, Park scrambles out of his bed, rushing to find the doctor. The doctor looks up. Is there a problem? Park begs for his help. Juno is alive and he must find him. The doctor hesitates. Park is not ready to return to society yet. He needs to check the situation, but Park is losing his patience. Park snaps back. The doctor does not understand the severity of this. He is not asking for permission. His eyes burn with absolute resolve. Seeing that intense look, the doctor sighs and relents. There is one condition. Soon, Park is sitting inside a car. He thanks the doctor deeply, promising to repay this massive favor. The doctor promises to stay in touch, instructing the driver to be careful. He still was not fully recovered. As the car pulls away, the young woman mentions that the kind doctor actually covered all of Park's medical bills, bought him clothes, and even arranged for a driver. She wonders why he went so far for Park, since low-level rank ex-returnees are almost always totally ignored. The doctor simply smiles. He wants to hear more of Park's stories, and besides, he really needs to get his office doorknob fixed immediately. Hearing this, the shocked assistant remembers exactly how that handle got ruined, picturing the exact moment Park forced the door open. Later, the doctor sits in his office, realizing this is already the second time a handle has been shattered like that. It has been ages since he last detected the scent of an irregular. Meanwhile, Park rests in the backseat of his taxi. Breaking news report suddenly broadcasts that at 3 p.m. today, several wild monsters escaped into an open field out in the province. This disaster happened because a major calculation error while dismantling a small portal. The monsters are surrounding The entire zone, though officials claim they will clear them in 50 minutes. 2 waves were stopped, but 12 awakened soldiers already died. Hearing this, Park stares out the window. He remembers his chat with the curious doctor, who explained how their world completely changed after the horrific disaster years ago. The old man had even joked that if he possessed any awakened powers, he would immediately quit his boring medical job and make millions hunting monsters. Park simply asked what that even meant. The doctor laughed, saying Park must have taken a massive blow to the head. Park just wanted him to explain. 10 years ago, mysterious portals began opening up across the globe. Society now calls that fateful day the Great Disaster. It marked the very first dimensional convergence, linking their planet to multiple dangerous alien worlds. Beasts flooded through, and 10% of humanity was wiped out instantly. The regular army simply could not handle monsters popping up everywhere. Because of this, weaker nations had to rely heavily on mercenaries. These survivors, often called the Awakened, were given special hunting licenses that allowed them to track and kill the invading beasts. Fascinated, Park asked how someone joins up. The doctor burst into laughter, telling him it is impossible for normal folks because you must awaken first. Only then can you attempt the brutal mercenary exam at the Central Association. The young warrior muttered that it sounded incredibly complicated. Flashback ends, and now we see Park arriving at his destination. The driver announces that they have officially arrived, pointing directly to the old house right across the street. Park steps out onto the pavement, offering his sincere gratitude before the car speeds off. He slowly approaches the rundown building. Suddenly, an elderly woman stares down at him from a balcony, demanding to know who he is. He replies that he is looking for Cherno. The old woman scoffs. He still looks like a kid but talks with such heavy authority. Park is completely confused by her weird attitude. She snaps that nobody named Cherno lives here and tells him to get lost. Park sighs, wondering if he somehow got the wrong address, but just then, loud arguing echoes from inside. Intrigued, he steps closer to the front door. He spots a crumpled warning notice on the floor. Could his brother be in massive debt? Later, Park wanders down the noisy streets, reflecting on his time surviving in the brutal jungle. Out in the wild, the strongest survive, but here in civilization, money is the real power. Park enters a sleek government building, ready to present his awakened card. But the clerk reviews his registration and delivers some pretty disappointing news. Denied, his application is flat out rejected. Park demands to know why. He is an F-rank awakened, so what is wrong? She pulls up his file. 4 points short, impossible. Park asks how this could even happen. He literally crossed a dangerous portal 2 weeks ago, but she just scoffs. Ordinary civilians die trying to cross portals. Their bodies get ripped in half. She clearly does not believe him. Either way, he still has other options. He can attend the academy or grind points in dangerous field battles. She tells him to come back as a true awakened. Park walks out, annoyed. A confusing system. Still, the Suan Goblin field sparks his interest. Soon, he is riding in a taxi. Looking out the window, he wonders, just how far do those massive walls stretch? The driver answers him. They surround the entire city, and he can easily see them on the map app. The city is split into 12 areas, connected by hundreds of transit gates. Observing everything around him, Park realizes he must act fast. A moment later, the driver announces they have finally arrived at the destination. They arrive at Suan Field, Gate 27. Park steps out and stares at the massive area. Beyond this gate lies the actual hunting ground. He prepares for what is next. He starts walking forward. 2 heavily armed soldiers stand guard, watching him closely. They demand to know what a civilian is doing here. Park stands his ground. He tells them flat out that he is here to hunt. The guard demands his license. No license, none at all. The guard's face instantly falls. Civilians are strictly banned from this zone, but wait, look over there. The other guard screams to close the gate, but it is already too late. A car comes crashing right through the security barrier, spinning completely out of control. Inside, a terrifying beast is actively devouring a passenger. The vehicle slams into a wall. The panicked guard radios for the emergency squad to contain the threat immediately. The soldiers surround the wreck, raising their weapons in defensive positions. The monster steps out. The commander orders them to fire, and they shoot. Dozens of bullets pierce its flesh until the beast finally collapses. The guards report that the threat is neutralized. The monster is dead. But as the dust settles, one guard looks around, wondering where Park went. Ran away, cowardly. The guard assumes he fled in terror. Dead wrong, not even close. Park is already walking inside. Even out in this open field, he can feel absolutely everything. He realizes that getting his own car needs to be a top priority. Looking around the ruins, he wonders if Seo is the only city left standing. The scale of destruction is hard to process. Soon, the cold night falls. For Park, this pitch-black darkness actually feels strangely comforting and familiar. He steps out into the ruins. It is finally time to start the hunt. But as he moves, his body suddenly feels incredibly heavy. He looks toward some buildings. Shaking it off, he sprints forward, leaping onto the concrete structures. He scales the walls with ease, standing tall on the roof as he surveys the area. Under the glowing moon, he looks like an absolute legend, but he is not just posing for a photo. Park closes his eyes, focusing deeply. He activates his senses, planning his next move, where to go. He snaps his head to the side. He spots his path. Gliding down the wall, man, those shoes must have alien-level grip. Wandering through the streets, he walks toward a dark, suspicious alley. A nasty pack of goblins has cornered a helpless dog at the far end. They are ready to eat. Starvation drool is literally dripping from their jaws. But this dog is not giving up easily, fighting with everything. Just then, stepping casually from the dark, our boy appears. Park looks at the dog and dryly asks if it needs a hand. The desperation in its eyes says yes. Honestly, none of that even matters. The goblins charge at the human. Perfect. Park just grins. He runs straight into the fight, slipping right behind the lead monster. A brutal attack from behind. The first goblin gets hit so hard, its head collapses right into its chest. Unreal. Then, things get very weird. Glitchy blue screens start flashing directly in front of him. Error messages pop up endlessly. Park has absolutely no clue. The system struggles, failing to properly register his insane actions. But while he stands there distracted, the remaining monsters see their chance. They are utterly confident. It is a terrible mistake. That confidence vanishes when he casually punches their teeth out. One punch each, total knockout. The last goblin tries to run away. After watching his squad get deleted, he scrambles up the nearest wall. He climbs up the building, but commits a classic, fatal horror movie sin. He stops at the top to look back, looking for the monster he just faced. Park is already there. One toss off the roof, and gravity does the rest. Standing there, another screen flashes with a critical class error. This immediately triggers a wild memory from his past. He was running completely naked through a deadly forest, just fighting to survive. That was when he first earned his status points, but on Earth. Do these interface systems, screens, actually still work on Earth? Are the glitches tied to his power being weaker since he returned here? Suddenly, a new window pops open, the achievement shop. Intrigued, Park decides to check it out. 7 points to spend. Nothing too crazy on the list, but the items he buys materialize right before his eyes. Before he can even take a bite, a soft sound breaks the quiet. It is that dog, but not alone this time. Look at that. And this time she has a tiny puppy with her. Park approaches, placing a hand. She is dying, trusting her instincts. The poor animal finally relaxes. But Park refuses to give up easily on her. Not like this. In silence, her eyes seem to plead, "Please take care of my baby." Wolves were his family in the other world. Fate is repeating. Perhaps history is repeating itself. He offers her a quick snack. She clearly needs it more than he does. He stands up. He looks down at the 7 goblin corpses scattered across the cold ground. It was still dead of night, but he worked straight through until the sunrise to finish everything. He made a simple grave for the dog that died defending its own pup. He stood there, in quiet respect, honoring the loss. Meanwhile, near the entrance of Area 27, the traffic was pure chaos, with angry horns and stressed drivers pushing through. But the noise suddenly cut out when a figure approached, hauling dead goblins piled high on his back, lifeless or not. The sight of those monsters made the crowd recoil. Park sold the remains and walked away with over $10,000 for his loot. The real treasure was the crystals inside each monster. Those are the true prize. Since he lacked any official bank account, the payment had to be made completely in cash. Staring at the stacks, he wondered how much cash he could pull in by diving into dungeons and collecting more crystals. Elsewhere in the city, a delivery truck sits parked near a convenience store. Inside, a driver chats warmly with a cashier while buying a small treat for his child. Back in his truck, the man smiles. It was a good, quiet work day and he just wants to go home, but his quiet peace does not last long. On his walk back, someone suddenly calls out his name, Junho, and without warning, a heavy fist slams into his jaw, sending him straight to the ground. The thug sneers. It has been way too long, and they were worried since he promised to abandon his kid and skip town. Junho looks up, instantly recognizing the cruel face. Suddenly, the thugs begin kicking Junho, Park's younger brother, laughing that he looks better than before, asking how many times they had to chase him down. Terrified, Junho reaches into his pocket and pulls out some cash, pleading that this is all the money he made. Shuffling through the notes, the thug tells him his monthly payment is 8,000 Brazilian reals, and the interest adds another 6,000 reals, meaning he is still short. With tears in his eyes, Junho stammers an apology, begging them to wait just 3 days so he can find the cash. Another punch lands as the thug asks how much interest accumulates in 3 days, telling him to stop lying. Right then, a voice calls out to Junho. The lead collector looks up, demanding to know who is there. Junho is frozen in absolute shock, staring at his brother. Shortly after, Park steps closer, looking down at him, asking if he really is Junho. Then, a flashback shows Junho being targeted by bullies. Right after, Park is seen standing by, watching coldly. The boy begs his older brother for help, but Park ignores him completely, leaving Junho to face the beating alone as he walks away. Clearly, his brother was never a source of comfort. The memory shifts to news of massive, unexplained explosions tearing across the nation. Strange red spheres, serving as portals, begin appearing alongside the blast sites. Explosions. Staring at the news, Junho panics. He runs straight toward his parents' room. His parents are relieved to see him safe, though they still don't know where his older brother is. Suddenly, a deafening blast shakes the house, and terrifying monsters start pouring in. Meanwhile, a massive, glowing eye stares at Junho. In a flash, he vanishes, back in the present. Park smiles faintly, noting that his younger brother has grown since they last met. Junho stammers out that he thought his brother was dead. Right then, another thug interrupts the tension, asking if this guy is actually Junho's older brother. Right then, Park grabs the thug's head, and in seconds the guy is flung backward. Junho watches in shock as Park throws him so violently that he flies sideways. The two henchmen stand completely frozen by what they saw. Park calmly asks if his brother is hurt, and Junho says he's fine. Right then, the other guy charges forward. Park tries to kick him, but the attack has zero effect. Instead, the thug's leg instantly snaps, collapsing to the ground. The guy writhes in agony. No wonder his partner is shaking in terror. He figures that Park must be an awakened warrior. Moments later, Park tells the thug to step up, but the terrified man swears he never hurt anyone. He begs Park to believe him, claiming he told the others to back off. Soon after, Park hands some cash to the guy, telling him to take it and leave. Sometime later, night falls, and an elderly woman appears right in front of them. Park and his brother watch closely as she asks if he is certain this man is his sibling. Junho confirms he is. Park politely calls her grandma and says he brought some meat. The woman replies that family needs to stay in touch, then tells them to hurry because the boy fell asleep waiting for his dad to return. Inside the home, little boy is sleeping. Park asks if that is his son, and Junho replies that his name is Gung-ho, his one and only treasure. Park asks where the boy's mother went. Junho admits she left to live her own life, blaming himself for failing to provide for his family. Park, trying to change the heavy mood, suggests they grab a drink. Later at the table, Junho mentions that when Park vanished, he assumed he was dead all this time, but he is alive and hasn't aged at all. Park asks how much debt he has. Junho reveals it is about 220,000 reals. But he insists it is fine since he will manage. He adds that he has a new job. The main character asks about the work, and Junho says he works at a logistics center. Park asks if the truck is his, and Junho says that it isn't, explaining it used to belong to their grandma's son. However, he is currently renting it. Once again, our main character asks what the grandma's son did for work. Junho quietens, admitting he heard that Park had perished during the Great Disaster. Soon after, the little boy wakes up, rubbing his eyes to see a dog sitting right in front of him. He looks around and spots his father. Junho happily asks if he is awake. Shyly, the kid asks who the stranger is. His father explains that it is his uncle, telling him to say hello. A bit later, the kid happily plays with the dog. Junho smiles, noting how much his son always wanted a pet. That is when Park suggests they should start working together, leaving Junho completely confused by the sudden proposal. Park explains he will handle all the heavy lifting, only needing help with driving the truck. Curious, Junho asks what exactly his brother plans to do, and Park reveals he wants to hunt monsters. This news leaves Junho absolutely speechless. A bit later, the scene cuts directly over to the hunters' command center, where a receptionist is congratulating our main character. The hunter has successfully registered as an awakened being. Somehow, he managed to. Park is determined to increase his stats in just one day, asking if he is now an F-rank druid. She nods, explaining that his new registration lets him finally open a bank account. He can make official transactions now, she explains. She hands him a sleek registration card, calling it a small, welcoming gift. He also needs to download the official central app for awakened users. If he collects enough dimensional energy, he might eventually become a ranker. That path comes with incredible government benefits. She casually asks if he already knows how to open his status window. Park utters the secret K-word. Instantly, a glowing blue screen appears. His core attributes are displayed, but Park is shocked by how weak they look. The scene shifts to a moving truck. His brother Juno calls him, sounding thrilled. He eagerly congratulates Park on officially becoming an awakened hunter. Juno mentions he is currently in the middle of driving his delivery route, but he promises to meet up as soon as he drops off the final batch. Now that the legal paperwork is done, only the mercenary test remains. Park cuts him off, stating they need to pay off their massive debt first. Juno gasps. After all, Park is still only an F-rank. Hunting dangerous monsters right away seems like a total suicide mission. Before Juno can argue, Park hangs up, leaving his brother completely baffled. He feels like a totally different person. Meanwhile, Park approaches a massive closed gate. The portal is sealed tight. Elsewhere on Route 77, a luxury car speeds past. Inside, a group of rookie hunters are panicking about being late for their raid. Their arrogant leader scowls, telling his nervous teammates to shut their mouths. Why are they terrified? They are awakened elites, not fragile regular humans. If they clear this dungeon, they will officially secure their spots in the guild. Behind his confident smirk, the leader is utterly disgusted by their cowardice. They are incompetent amateurs who only care about getting a quick payday. Honestly, they only got this far because of their wealthy family connections. Back at the gate, a guard calls out for the next registered hunter. The soldier blinks in shock when Park steps forward completely empty-handed. He asks if he is alone. Park simply nods and scans his card. Pulling up the data, the guard explains the strict rules of the zone. Low-rank hunters are legally barred from entering high-level dungeons without a party. Nearby, the snobbish leader from the car watches Park walk toward the portal. Another guard whispers, questioning if the kid is going to get slaughtered in there. He does not even have basic armor or a decent weapon. But the senior guard smiles, telling him not to underestimate this rookie. This is the same guy who easily wiped out 7 goblins at Gate 27. Overhearing this, the jealous rich kid sneers, refusing to believe the rumors. He thinks Park is a dead man walking, but honestly, we all know better. The gate guard then apologizes to the wealthy group for a brief system lag. As soon as they are cleared, the leader barks at his driver to speed up. He wants to tail the arrogant rookie and see what he's actually planning. But as they drive into the dark tunnel, Park is nowhere to be seen. The team looks around in absolute disbelief. The boy has completely vanished. It looks like he might have just stumbled onto something pretty interesting. Deep in the forest, Park is running hard through the thick trees. Suddenly he stops, realizing this must be the current pathetic state of his body. He has gotten incredibly weak, and he desperately needs some motivation to train again. He needs to train, but looking at something ahead, surprise hits him. Faint, strange noises echo in the distance, sounds like a real sword fight. Peer ahead, he spots signs of movement right in that direction. A slow grin spreads across his face. This is perfect. Watching civilized people fight instead of wild beasts is a massive opportunity. There is absolutely no way he is missing out on this action. Nearby, a brutal slash takes off a fighter's arm in a spray of blood. Up above, Park watches with a cold stare while a desperate group gets surrounded. Frustrated, he mutters that these guys are taking way too long to start killing. While he waits, a luxurious car door opens and a wealthy-looking man steps out. He demands to know why they are taking so long with these targets. The commanding soldier looks startled as the irritated man barks orders to finish them. Someone mentions the target has a bounty of 200,000 Brazilian reals. Park overhears this, and his eyes instantly light up with greed. That is a massive pile of easy cash just waiting to be claimed by him. The soldiers watch in shock as the final trap springs closed. The target laughs, confirming his massive bounty and daring them to try and take it. But the surrounding group of attackers hesitates, suddenly looking extremely unsure of themselves. They wonder if even their combined strength is enough to win this clash. Suddenly, the man lunges forward, but wait, look who just entered the fray. Park appears out of nowhere, heading straight for the remaining soldiers. The men freeze in absolute confusion as this random kid strolls toward them. They demand to know his name, but Park just asks about that bounty. "Did you really say his head is worth that much money?" he asks. The target demands to know who he is, and Park smiles, just a guy who needs cash. The surrounding soldiers mutter among themselves, trying to figure out this crazy kid. The leader bursts out laughing, mocking the kid for being a complete outsider. He warns the kid that he should have minded his own business. Right then, Park feels a strange, heavy-weight lock onto his body. He wonders what is going on. The leader grins, explaining the trap. Park stared into his eyes for more than 5 seconds, meaning his movement is completely sealed. With the kid frozen in place, the leader instantly orders his soldiers to attack. Dozens of sharp swords instantly point straight at the helpless boy. But Park just shrugs and moves freely, leaving the soldiers completely speechless. Grinning, Park asks if that was supposed to be magic, finding the whole thing amusing. Annoyed, the leader tries to activate his binding magic once again. He manages to freeze our protagonist, claiming this is what he deserves. The leader pulls out a sharp dagger, saying Park should have stayed away. But before the deadly blade can even touch him, Park strikes without warning. His lightning blow lands completely clean, leaving the arrogant leader badly injured. Park asks if he has any more tricks before unleashing a devastating punch. A barrage of punches lands. The leader flies backward, completely defeated. Park sighs. He complains about how incredibly boring that fight actually was. His companion is stunned. Park must be ridiculously strong to win so easily. Who is this guy? Meanwhile, the remaining guards watch in absolute terror. They stare at Park. He casually asks if they still want to fight. They shake their heads. Park immediately points toward a nearby location. He orders them to go there, asking if anyone has a rope. A guard hands it over. Park then asks what they should do next. The guards panic. They plead that they do not have any bounties. They claim they were forced to serve their boss under threat of death. Turning him in is more than enough to yield a massive bounty reward. The boss is devastated. He sheds tears over this instant betrayal. They are completely abandoning him. Park just asks if he is finally awake. The group starts shouting insults. They call their former leader total trash. The young companion chimes in. Do they get a reward for capturing them? But the tracker warns them. These guys are definitely lying through their teeth. They are all active outlaws. Some must have decent prices on their heads. The guards deny it. They claim they are nothing but harmless drifters. The tied-up leader calls out to Park, asking about the city laws. Why stay restricted by rules? This lawless wilderness offers ultimate freedom. If Park sets him free, he promises to make him live like a king. He promises endless wealth, but Park is completely uninterested in his offers. Shut up. With a swift kick, Park silences the annoying leader. The boss instantly passes out. Park turns to ask about the other outlaws. His companion nods. Nearly all of these guards are indeed wanted criminals. Their fate is sealed. Park ponders how they will transport so many captives. There are too many, but the young companion suggests leaving them behind. Park smiles. He decides it is simply time to knock them all out. Sometime later, their car is cruising down the quiet, empty highway. Inside, the boy insists they must find a way to repay Park's kindness. But Park shrugs. He tells them there is absolutely no need for that. The companion disagrees. They only survived that nightmare because of his strength. Park chuckles. If they are that insistent, they can do him a favor. They eagerly agree, asking what kind of special abilities he possesses. The companion proudly explains his own awakened power is advanced swordsmanship. He even learned tracking skills from studying rare skill books. This shocks Park. He had no idea books could teach you magic. His companion is dumbfounded, wondering how Park does not know this. Meanwhile, Park silently decides it might be smart to learn some spells. Having combat magic would surely be handy, but a bright light halts his thoughts. An enormous glowing energy suddenly wraps around the road ahead. Park asks if it is a portal, and the boy nods in excitement. The boy explains it is a level 1 dungeon, the lowest tier. They were headed there and Park sighs, wishing he could join them. But he lacks a mercenary license, leaving his companion completely shocked by his ignorance. Processing what he just heard, the man asks if Park really lacks a license. Park calmly replies that he actually does not. Once a portal opens, the military first rushes to secure the entire area, leaving only weak small fry monsters behind that somehow managed to survive the initial sweep. Honestly, the experience gained in these low-level E-rank zones with active level 1 dungeons is barely enough to push past those early levels. To actually grow, hunters need to seek out level 2 dungeons instead. The captain remains totally baffled, wondering how a rookie who has not even cleared a level 1 dungeon managed to completely crush that C-rank criminal. Park, noticing The guy intensely staring at him coldly asks what he wants. Quickly apologizing, the man asks if he can know Park's rank. Right then, Kim reveals it is just F rank, which leaves the man absolutely speechless. Shrugging it off, Park asks what favor he should demand. As his reward, meanwhile, back at the glowing portal, a mysterious figure begins to emerge. The captain from before is still waiting nearby, watching his entire raid party limp out. They look pretty badly beaten up after stepping through that gate, due to the intense chaos. Inside, another young hunter actually lost his entire hand. Because of this massive injury, they desperately need a healer. Grimacing, the captain wonders if mercenary licenses are just given to absolutely any random person nowadays, the very first thing he plans to do upon returning to the guild is fire the guy who recruited these useless fools. Still, a teammate urges him to cool down, saying he should not be so harsh on the new guy, considering how desperate the guild has been lately. But despite that, the captain remains incredibly frustrated. In his bitter mind, wealthy elite kids can easily buy their way into awakening, and right after that, their incredibly wealthy parents simply hire high-level mercenaries to carry them through, no effort. They are fully ready to join real guilds and take on dangerous missions, but the actual veterans suffer just to babysit these spoiled, useless rookies, handing his furious boss a drink. The teammate suggests they relax and cool off. Taking a slow sip of his drink, the captain demands a complete update since the level 1 dungeon is about to close up completely. Did anything major happen? Soldier responds that a massive situation just went down. Apparently, someone delivered 10 captured outlaws, including a notorious C-rank criminal who has definitely heard of the captain before this. Confused, the captain asks if some elite high-ranking hunter was scheduled to visit their camp today, but the guard shakes his head, explaining it was actually an F-rank rookie without a mercenary license who single-handedly dragged the criminal in. Wait, how? Stunned, the captain demands to know how that is even possible. The guard admits he does not know the exact details, but witnesses claim the F rank simply thrashed the guy with his bare hands. Instantly, the captain realizes this might be the mysterious young man he ran into back in the tunnel. He quickly asks where the rookie went. The guard points ahead, saying he saw him walking toward the active portals. Wasting no time, the captain rushes back to the gate area, determined to see this kid's raw strength with his own eyes. If the rumors are true, he might recruit a massive talent for his team. Jogging over, the captain climbs into a transport truck. His confused teammate follows, asking what is going on. The captain demands to know if the rookie who took down the C rank just entered the gate. Meanwhile, Park walks straight into the portal alongside his little brother. He notices that Park walks straight into the glowing portal alongside his brother, mentioning that this time the crossing does not hurt at all, and his clothes are completely fine. Junior. He explained that items without dimensional energy cannot pass through the portals, but as they saw, these clothes went through because they were made from dungeon materials. Glancing sideways, Park looks completely lost, asking what that weird object in front of him is. Junior explains that it is a door, pointing out this portal is only one of 38 dungeon gates. Right at that moment, both of them gasp. The door has vanished. Park asks why, and the guide answers that it only reappears once they clear the entire dungeon. Park asks if they must slaughter every beast. Junior explains that no, they only need to defeat the boss. Stretching, Park confidently says he will finish this fast. Junior tells him to wait, but the reckless hunter ignores the warning and leaps right inside. The guide stares, wondering if this recruit is the rumored powerhouse. With that insane speed, he could easily smash the record time for clearing a level 1 dungeon, but then a terrible thought hits him. They do not have tracking skills. That means locating the exit gate before the timer runs out is impossible. If they get trapped, they will vanish forever along with the portal. Meanwhile, the analyst watches in shock as the gateway Park entered. Slams shut, leaving the supervisor absolutely furious over that reckless young hunter. Now let us see how Park is doing inside his own portal. Monsters prowl the shadows. Suddenly, a massive impact sends one. Flying backward, Park watches, noting these creatures carry highly valuable loot and starts digging out their internal core stones. He grumbles about finding only one blood crystal after 3 kills. Still, the absolute priority right now is grinding some quick levels. Hidden nearby, the tracker watches Park work, counting the dead beasts. Soon after, the tracker uses his skill to locate our hero and checks his stats, realizing he can buy 2 new abilities. With 102 points, he chooses a beast. Taming power right on cue, 2 monsters charge at him. Reacting instantly, he paralyses the targets and defeats them easily. The system awards him the achievement, but then a warning blares. A critical error pops up, a major data synchronization conflict is occurring. Park is left scratching his head, utterly confused by the alert. Fortunately, the notification confirms a clean level up to level 2. Riding the high of increased stats, he buys the Tree Spirit skill. For 100 points, the system confirms the purchase is complete. Eager to test it out, Park immediately summons his new helper. A bright light fills the room, forming a green spectral orb. Park blinks in surprise, recognizing the tiny creature, back in the jungle. He mistook this mystical spirit for a simple firefly. Now he commands it to find the missing goblins, following his master's order. The spark floats away to hunt down the runaway monsters. Park realizes the spirit shares memories gathered directly from the surrounding trees. His thoughts were a bit sluggish, making him wonder if his low level was the problem. He pulled up his status screen, analyzing his stats and current abilities with a critical eye. 2 skills stood out on the screen: search and track. Without hesitating, he decided to buy both skills to keep growing stronger. He pressed his palm flat against the dirt, immediately triggering the search function. Setting a reference point, the pulses of energy rippled out from his hand. He activated tracking next, only to learn the local goblins were already dead. Something felt wrong. He glanced to the side, realizing this was no ordinary hunt. Sensing trouble, he bolted toward the source of the commotion, bracing for the worst. There lay the boy from earlier, desperately fighting off a massive, mutated beast. "Wait, why?" the bleeding kid asked what Park was doing back here. A weak smile crossed his face, relieved that the main character had returned. Park dryly asked if the kid had not planned to hunt on his own. The boy gasped out that he was actually the one being hunted, begging for help. Moving like lightning, Park lunged forward to intercept the beast. He cleanly blocked the strike, quickly shifting back into a solid stance. Before the monster could react, Park slammed it hard against a jagged rock. Blood splattered everywhere, but there was zero time to admire the carnage. Park was already airborne, descending on the creature to deliver the final, crushing blow. The level up notification flashed, rewarding him with 120 achievement points. Watching from the ground, the young man stared in absolute awe at his power. Park muttered that the exit gate should be open by now. The boy nodded in agreement, and soon they stepped back through the portal. Standing outside was the same group from earlier, watching them with intense curiosity. One guy whispered, asking if that was the player who took down the bounty. He recalled that Captain Kang wanted an immediate update if the guy returned. Checking the logs, he wondered just how fast their clear time actually was. Meanwhile, the rescued boy excused himself, needing to meet back up with his team. He promised to keep in touch, while Park gave a simple nod of dismissal. Park told him he would leave the extra clothes stored in the warehouse. At the warehouse, Park changed back into his regular clothes, feeling completely exhausted. His stomach growled fiercely, but his peace was interrupted by an unexpected visitor. A stranger stepped forward, asking if he was Park, making the boy instantly wary. The man introduced himself as Captain Kang of the 27th Guild Combat Division. He politely asked for a few minutes to talk, leading to a tense discussion. Park stared at him coldly, asking if he represented the Sheila Guild. The captain admitted he was, extending a formal invitation to join their ranks. He promised top-tier resources to fuel his growth, but Park shut him down instantly. The captain frowned, clearly annoyed by how quickly the kid dismissed the offer. He asked if Park already had another guild lined up making a move. If so, they were more than willing to outbid them with an official contract. But Park simply shook his head, confirming he was a free agent. Kang reminded him that although they were ranked fourth, the power gap was tiny. There is barely any difference between the top-tier guilds, Kang argued, trying to convince him. Park shrugged, stating he simply hated working under anyone else. Park was already back home. He noted that the others had not returned yet. As he lay down, he figured they were just enjoying some father-son quality time. But soon an old woman appeared. She grumbled about how the youth disrespect time. Park just smiled, telling her she should sit down and rest too. After all, the warm afternoon weather was absolutely perfect for a quick nap. She scoffed, saying she had laundry to hang and zero time for sleeping. Watching his grandmother struggle alone, Park immediately got up to help her out. As they worked, she squinted, asking if he was really Junho's older brother. Park confirmed that he was indeed his brother, offering a warm smile. She joked that having Benjamin Button in their house was quite a surprise. Park joked that it was the opposite, but the old woman just shrugged. With monsters spawning everywhere, someone looking younger did not shock her anymore. Defying age seemed pretty minor compared to world-ending beasts crashing through cities. Then she noted it had been 10 whole years since he last saw Junho. She gently warned him to stay safe and not break his family's hearts again. Park offered a reassuring smile, quietly listening to the grandmother's genuine concern. He told her not to worry, promising he would not die so easily. Right then, his brother and young nephew finally arrived, warmly greeting Park. Without a word, Park handed him a folded paper, leaving his brother completely baffled. Park explained it was the money to clear his debts and rebuild his life. He urged him to pay off the lenders quickly so they could eat. Overwhelmed, his tearful brother stammered, asking how he could ever repay this. But Park brushed it off, no sentimentality. He told him to just leave. Wiping away tears, his brother turned to go, but Park called him back. He asked if he needed extra pocket money for snacks on the way. The man nodded happily, promising to return in the blink of an eye. Park babysat his nephew on the terrace. Suddenly, a system prompt flashed. It notified him that a target was following, urging him to name it. Staring at the stray dog, Park's nephew eagerly shouted a name idea. He wanted to call it Baku. Park agreed. It sounded pretty cool. So Baku it was. Time passed. The afternoon drifted into a quiet evening. The little boy yawned, complaining about how hungry he was getting. Just then, Park spotted his brother's delivery truck pulling up outside. Smiling, he took his young nephew's hand to go welcome him back. But as they approached, oh man, this is where the nightmare actually begins. He collapsed right onto the dirt. Silence. Park stood there in pure shock. Later that night, the scene shifts to a dimly lit hideout across town. Inside, a shady group of thugs are casually playing cards and chatting. One asks if the big fight is still scheduled for this week. His partner nods, noting that everyone online is betting heavily on Miho. He then asks about Horizon, remembering how much cash they lost last time. Suddenly, heavy, frantic banging on their metal door echoes through the room. Annoyed, the leader barks to find out what all the racket is about. But before anyone can move, the door is violently kicked off its hinges. A bloody silhouette stands in the frame. Panic, the thugs scramble for weapons. He grabs the man's head, dragging him out. The onlookers watch in complete shock. They wonder what is happening. Suddenly, a cold, piercing glare locks onto the doorway. Then chaos erupts. The stunned gang has absolutely no clue what is coming. Within seconds, a massive cabinet and a random weapon are flying at them. An insane brawl breaks out. Thugs are getting tossed around like ragdolls. The boss watches in horror. Our hero just wiped out everyone in seconds. One terrified goon nervously asks the boss if he knows who this is. He must be an awakened, but right then, a massive table comes flying. Our hero hurls it straight at him, immediately leaping right on top. He demands to know if his name is Kim. The boss angrily nods. He barks back asking who he is. Our hero coldly replies. He came to settle Park Jong-ho's debt. The boss laughs, calling him insane. He sneers, asking if beating up honest people makes him feel powerful. He warns him he won't get away with this, but then a slap cracks. A hard slap hits his face. Park snaps, asking what that has to do with anything and why they brutally beat his brother up over a simple debt. He yells that they should have just taken the cash and left him alone. Why did they have to cross the line? As the blows land, the boss starts begging for mercy. Park coldly asks if he wants to settle now or get beaten to death. Terrified, the man agrees to clear it instantly. He promises to pay everything. A little while later, the whole gang is kneeling in front of Park, swearing that their client, John Rodham, no longer owes a single penny and all his debts are officially cleared. Park warns them that if he ever sees them again, they are dead. He tells them to stay out of his way. They quickly nod. But one sneaky goon in the back clearly hasn't given up yet. After a while, the goon tells his boss that our hero has left. Furious and plotting his revenge, the boss sneers, wondering if the kid really thinks he doesn't have some serious, powerful people backing him up. Meanwhile, inside a luxurious guild building, the leader mentions finding new talent. He pulls up some files, asking his partner to look at the details on Park. But his partner is not impressed. He notes that the kid is just an F-rank hunter who literally registered as an awakened just today. The leader smirks, saying that makes him even more intriguing, but as they try to pull up his full profile, the system denies their access. They stare in shock, wondering who this mysterious guy really is. Luckily, they easily bypass the security block and force their way in. They still want to know why his profile is confidential, since he has no guild yet. Clearly, there is a lot more to his story. Next, they check his abilities. The file reveals he is a conjurer. On top of that, he effortlessly defeated a high-bounty target recently. And get this, that target had been missing for 10 whole years. This makes them wonder if Park is actually an undercover special agent. The leader never expected this, thinking he was just a strong fighter. He never imagined he could be with intelligence. Then, the boy mentions. He insists they should just give up on recruiting this guy, feeling 100% certain that the target belongs to another country. He knew this would happen. From the moment all that chaos started, eager to switch subjects, the other man suggests they grab some coffee instead. He asks why a special agent would even enter a level 1 dungeon. Why does it matter so much? Once more, the man begs him to watch Park, though the boy seems pretty hesitant to agree. Meanwhile, over at the hospital, Park is visiting his injured brother, asking if he is finally awake. Juno notices that his brother has arrived, asking why he bought so much food. Juno replies that eating plenty helps a ton with recovery. Park, in turn, asks if he is feeling any better. Juno responds that he should be able to take off his bandages tomorrow, before asking if the mercenary test is tomorrow. Park confirms that it is, and Juno says it would be amazing if he passes and gets recruited by a top guild, but Park does not seem to want that. No way. He remembers being the king of the forest. Because of his pride, he refuses to join any group and play lackey. Juno then suggests he should at least research some elite guilds to join, but the boy answers that there is no need because he is starting his own a brand new guild. In pure disbelief, Juno asks if he is actually serious of joining one. A bit later, we head over to the adventurer's agency. Inside, Shuya is seen walking through the halls when, suddenly, an older man calls out to her, demanding to know where she has been lately. He points out there were 2 breaches in her sector, and if yesterday's portal was a bridge portal, the entire city would be in ruins right now. The girl fires back, asking if they are totally helpless without her, but the man begs for her help since the portal manager keeps bugging him. He explains that she is completely wasting her incredible talent out here, but the girl admits it has been pretty hard to stay focused lately, handing her document. The man tells her to cut the nonsense and read it immediately. She is shocked they are assigning her manual labor right when she thought she was getting a break, but the man notes she is not the only one, and it is hardly the first time. Right after the girl, completely annoyed, turns to leave, the man warns her not to go around rejecting candidates just because she is in a bad mood, reminding her they are desperately short on staff. She retorts that it is far better to reject any useless weakling who cannot even protect themselves. Soon, the scene shifts to a new location, where hopeful candidates discuss how badly they need to pass this exam. Nearby, a streamer is broadcasting live on YouTube. Everyone there is super pumped to take the test and get their official license. Right then, a new crowd enters the hall, and the streamer notes that he has to shut down the broadcast because the exam is starting. At that very moment, Park shows up, staring directly at the streamer. The kid asks if this is the first time he has watched a stream. Park asks who on earth he is talking to. While the kid backs away, the supervisor steps up, announcing he will be running the show for the next 3 days. The 21 supervisors present that day would evaluate if they had what it took to pass the test, assuming everyone had received a ticket with their number upon arrival. Selection of supervisors would begin through a random draw, meaning once called, they had to form a single line in front of their supervisor. Time ticked by, and many were called until it was finally Park's turn with number 15, but he froze right there. His supervisor was that blonde girl from earlier, and looking at her, he realized it had been ages. He recognized her right away. Meanwhile, the lead instructor ordered everyone to head to their waiting rooms and rest up until the next announcement. Meanwhile, that obnoxious kid who was live streaming earlier was already heading to the hall, bragging to his viewers about how hard the test is. Honestly, he looked like he might get sent home tomorrow, but wait for it. We see that this streamer ended up in the exact same waiting room. He glanced over and spotted Park, asking why he looked so miserable all of a sudden. Staring at Park, the guy suddenly realized they had crossed paths earlier. He asked if Park knew anything about their supervisor, that crazy blonde girl. He warned him there is a reason everyone calls her the witch. Apparently, she will disqualify a person simply because she is having a bad day. Park just shrugged. Why blame her instead of those who came unprepared? This completely set the streamer off. He felt totally ignored and insulted. He snapped, does this useless rookie even know how to respect his seniors? But Park did not back down. If he had a problem, they should settle it. They could handle it like real men in a fight. The streamer laughed. He asked if Park thought he was easy prey. Park said absolutely. Livid, the guy told Park to follow him outside. Meanwhile, Choi had arrived at the waiting room, only to find the entire place empty. She wondered where they all went. Cut to a training ring arena where Park and the streamer were squaring up, ready to throw hands. The kid mocked Park, calling him unlucky for picking a fight with someone like him. He asked if Park ever heard of TV Kabu, boasting about his YouTube channel. But Park looked completely blank. He had zero clue what that even was. Asking if it was some kind of new food, which infuriated the kid. Even more, he growled that he was going to teach him a lesson. The crowd in the stands was cheering wildly for the online streamer, shouting that he loved teaching manners to disrespectful punks like this rookie. Of course, Park just smirked. You know, he actually loved this crazy drama. The streamer warned him not to beg for hospital money once he got finished with him. Instantly, he lunged forward, throwing a heavy punch. But right then, Choi stormed in, shouting at them to freeze. She ordered everyone back to their rooms. The spectators scattered instantly. Glaring at both of them, Choi demanded to know if they wanted to fail so badly. She did not want to hear any excuses. Since someone had to take the blame, the loser would fail the test. They had to fight, the streamer smirked, expecting this exact outcome. That woman is totally insane. Park gears up for the battle as the streamer tells him to stay cool, reminding him that he was actually the one who asked for this. Park sighs and apologizes in advance for the beatdown he is about to deliver. The young challenger charges right at him, but Park puts him down with a single brutal punch. He is instantly knocked out cold. Choi watches from the sidelines, completely stunned. Ever since she first met this guy, a strange and highly uneasy feeling has been bothering her. Park looks directly her way and asks why she is daydreaming, calling her out. He tells her to step right into the ring and fight him, but with a major condition. If he wins, she is not allowed to disqualify the guy he just flattened. Choi calls him a complete lunatic but steps up anyway, asking if he is actually an irregular. Park has absolutely no idea what that means and asks her to explain it. Instead of answering, she lunges forward in a flash, but Park easily dodges her fierce opening strike. Choi immediately unleashes a relentless barrage of heavy blows, forcing him to defend himself. He only blocks her. As she gears up for another strike, Choi throws out a promise. If he somehow wins, she will grant his request and spare the other kid. But as she strikes, she realizes that something is actually terribly off about this boy's relaxed defense. He is clearly hiding his true potential, and the sudden shift is really quite alarming. Park casually tells her she is a lot stronger than he originally expected her to be. Choi is completely shocked that he walked away from her fierce attack entirely unharmed. Refusing to give up, she charges at him again, declaring that this fight is officially over now. She connects with another heavy strike and immediately follows up with a rapid-fire combo. But out of nowhere, the protagonist finally turns the tables and starts fighting back with fury. He lands a heavy punch that actually instantly shatters her protective energy shield. Even though it is not a total defeat, Choi is utterly stunned by his raw power. Park charges directly at her once more, a wild grin spread across his face. He laughs that this is finally getting fun, while Choi realizes he truly is an irregular. She calls him an irregular, leaving the protagonist completely clueless about the term. Suddenly, she raises her hands and fully surrenders, which only leaves him feeling disappointed right now. She explains that this room is simply far too small for her real skills. They will just have to settle their score in a much larger battle arena next time. Park asks if there are other girls as incredibly strong as her on Earth. She tells him they are extremely rare, and then Park makes a very wildly unexpected proposal. He says he chooses her to make babies and straight up asks to mate. Choi slaps him hard across the face, and right then, the previously knocked out streamer wakes up. The streamer rubs his eyes in utter confusion, wondering what the hell just happened. An incredibly annoyed Choi storms off, leaving the newly defeated challenger in complete and utter shock. He still cannot believe he actually got flat out taken down with only one punch. Now he has to pack up and go home, having wasted all of that registration fee cash. He did not even take the test, which is incredibly embarrassing for him. He glares at the protagonist in sheer anger, asking if he is finally satisfied with that. Park just smiles calmly and reminds him that he was not actually disqualified. Meanwhile, a security camera watches them from above as a mysterious old man stares at a monitor. He is completely floored by Choi's sudden defeat. Park calls over the streamer. He tells him they should head out right now, but the streamer is still totally baffled. Park explains that he made a deal with Choi to let his actions slide. Disqualification, the streamer still wants to know why Park got slapped, but the boy responds that he did not mean to find out, right after. The young guy seems to realize something pretty big. He was targeted because of him. That is why he convinced the girl to ignore the commotion, simply letting her hit him instead. Realizing this, the guy starts following Park. Suddenly, a loud voice on the intercom calls Park, ordering him to head straight to the supervisor office as fast as possible. Soon, Park is sitting inside that very office, asking the boss why he was summoned. The supervisor says that before they talk, he needs to know everything is currently being recorded. He saw his fight with Supervisor Choi. For that reason, he is completely shocked that a mere candidate could go toe-to-toe with a rank B awakened, asking if the boy was actually an awakened. Honestly, Park still has no clue what that is, mentioning they have already asked him that exact question twice. The boss, watching him closely, supposes Park needs a quick lesson on the portals. The pit portals connect Earth to 3 separate planets. The first is called Aruka, the home planet of elves and dwarves. Interestingly, that world has active, friendly ties with Earth. They make regular exchanges from time to time, and the humans who returned learned powerful skills in magic and artifact crafting. The next planet is called Jichan, home to Momonas and martial artists. They constantly fight each other for global sovereignty. Those martial artists became human allies, while the Momonas are sworn enemies. And the last planet is called Meter, a brutal place dominated by massive orcs. To make matters worse, it is absolutely infested with incredibly ferocious monsters. Among the Earthlings returning from those 3 planets, there are some who learned unbelievably powerful abilities. They discovered their pure combat power easily exceeded the normal awakened. That is why they are officially classified as irregulars. This lore is pretty wild, and Park says it is too complicated, but he is absolutely sure the place he came from was not any of those 3 planets. The supervisor is completely baffled by his words, wondering if by some chance he is a rare dungeon returnee, asking which world the young boy actually came from. Park calmly explains that he already told the doctor he lived with wild wolves for over 1,000 years. A bit later, the boy finishes telling his absurd tale. The supervisor politely thanks him for sharing and sends him back to the waiting room. Moments later, Park leaves the office. Naturally, the supervisor thinks the entire story is far too ridiculous to be true. Right then, another man enters the office to introduce himself, saying he received the summons. The chief asks if he can immediately take over as the supervisor of room 15. The man asks if that was not Captain Choi territory, and the boss confirms it. He quickly explains that she fled, but says those petty details do not matter. He just wants him to closely watch candidate Park and write a detailed report once his exam is finished. Meanwhile, the boy is already inside the testing hall with other candidates, waiting for the test to start. Soon, every single candidate lines up alongside their captains, and that new man actually takes over as the official supervisor of room 15. A streamer watching this asks if Choi got fired by any chance. Just then, a new supervisor named Sang steps up to take charge. He oversees Team 15, announcing the brutal requirements for today's test. Everyone must clear a 100-meter dash in 9 seconds, then finish the triangle in an hour. The countdown ends, the test begins, and candidates immediately start dropping like flies. Seeing this, a female healer complains that support classes deserve a much easier exam. Sang scoffs, asking if she honestly expects bloodthirsty monsters to show her any mercy. Shutting down the complaints, he calls up the next candidate, and Han steps forward. He acts completely cocky, bragging that 9 seconds is too easy for someone like him. Sang drops the starting signal, and Han blurs forward like a rocket. The timer stops at a solid 8 seconds, prompting the supervisor to pass him. Next up is our main character, who steps to the starting line and prepares. From the sidelines, Ahin cheers loudly for him. Then, the starting signal drops. Park explodes forward. In a flash, he crosses the finish line. Everyone watching is left utterly speechless. This is an absolute stunner. Soon after, the director gets an urgent phone call from Sergeant Kim. The sergeant reports that candidate Park Seo-'s physical test results are in, and they are absolutely mind-blowing. Back at the track, reporters are already swarming to snap photos of Park. They are recording everything because his raw performance was simply unreal. Meanwhile, another phone rings. It is Miso from the association, director of the returnee center. The supervisor on the other end insists she needs to look at something. He says he is sending over the video footage of Park's sprint right now. She watches the footage, her eyes widen in pure disbelief. Her colleague notes that Major Young has a lie detection skill, confirming Park was honest. Yet Miso still struggles to accept that the medical report is actually true. Based on these insane physical stats, the guy is clearly an irregular. His power level has to easily rival a rank B hunter, if not higher. If his wild story is actually true, it means Park Seo somehow returned. From a mysterious fourth planet, Miso immediately orders her associate to keep reporters away from the training grounds, but he looks nervous, admitting that it is already too late because our main character is trending. Miso panics. She demands they scrub every single article immediately. Meanwhile, a crowd of photographers is frantically snapping pictures of someone. But our hero is already gone, casually walking down the street with Han. Back in her office, Miso is lost in deep thought. How did Park survive a portal without protective gear and keep his stats? She wonders if he was graded rank F just due to low dimensional energy. Either way, if he truly survived that dangerous fourth planet, it is massive news. South Korea might finally hold the key to conquering that uncharted territory. Meanwhile, a hungry swarm of reporters tries to push inside. Up on the higher floors, the test candidates are grabbing some lunch. Park is sitting nearby, eating his meal quietly next to Han. Han watches him, still shocked that this guy could drop him so easily. Feeling the heavy stare, Park looks up and asks if he is done eating. Han quickly brushes it off, casually asking if he wants something to drink. Han brings him some water, thinking that just watching this builder eat is something else. You can instantly tell this guy operates on a completely different level. Because of that, he is absolutely sure Park is going to be huge someday. Night falls and Park looks ready to crash. Han points out that the empty lockers probably mean everyone else failed the test, which is bad news for them. They are in serious trouble now. Park just blinks and asks why that even matters. Han explains that the next phase of the exam takes place in dungeons. Huge groups have a massive advantage, while tiny teams will struggle to survive. But Park shrugs it off, telling him not to sweat the small stuff. They do not need extra baggage anyway. Han is completely stunned by his confidence. Sure, Park is incredibly strong, but dungeons are a whole different beast. Anything can happen in there, so having a diverse team is always safer. Park repeats that he has nothing to worry about, then he changes the subject. What was Han actually doing on his phone when they first crossed paths? The young streamer replies that he was live streaming on YouTube. He asks if Park has seriously never heard of it, wondering if he lives under a rock. Park deadpans and says yes, his life was basically exactly like that. Han pulls out his screen and explains how the whole platform works. After showing him the features, Park decides that Han is actually a really decent guy. Soon, the pair heads outside. Han is quietly mapping out their golden future. He realizes Park has every single tool to become an absolute internet sensation. The man is physically flawless, handsome, and already made global headlines for a world record. If Park can showcase that insane power during these dungeon raids, it is only a matter of time before every major guild comes knocking. Park interrupts his daydreaming, saying he really likes Han and wants him in his clan. Han is stunned. Is Park actually planning to start his own group from scratch? Why would he ignore all the big-name guilds just to make a new one? But the protagonist has zero interest in working for someone else. Han starts plotting. Imagine the views if they record their dungeon raids with the top mercenary rookie. This could easily be the biggest viral hit of the entire year. But suddenly, we flash back to a younger Han collapsing onto the cold pavement. Back then, boxing was his only escape from a brutal, miserable childhood. He kept failing, but he clawed his way to a professional license anyway. Yet the sudden global cataclysm crushed every last dream he had left. With his athletic career ruined, he turned to the internet and became a struggling YouTuber. Now looking at Park, Han realizes this is the big break he has been waiting for. He cannot believe this once-in-a-lifetime shot is standing right here. He pledges to do absolutely anything to help Park succeed. Park smiles, admitting he likes his drive, and tells him to plan the stream. Tears streaming down his face, Han promises he will never let him down. Park is completely bewildered by the sudden waterworks, but Han just wipes them away. Han asks if he knows they need at least 3 people to register a clan. Naturally, Park has absolutely no clue, but before they can worry about that, a strange man suddenly walks in. Han stares, asking what on earth a monk is doing here. The visitor calmly introduces himself as Miyuki Jin, and things are about to get weird. He gets placed in Team 15. Suddenly, a device blares out an urgent alert. All candidates must gear up in battle suits and assemble on the 3rd floor. The meeting starts in 30 minutes. Park and Han exchange incredibly surprised looks. Why on earth are they forcing them to suit up at this late hour? Park is confused. Is the raid not supposed to happen tomorrow? Miyuki Jin warns that Reapers occasionally launch midnight dungeon raids without warning. Han thinks this is completely insane. They have 0 preparation time. The scene shifts to the briefing room, where the instructor takes the stage. This upcoming dungeon is their official testing ground, located inside Sector 5. That entire territory falls under the direct protection of the powerful Phoenix Guild. Because of this, it is only a level 1 dungeon containing 250 doors. Park has no clue. What does being under protection actually mean? Han stares in disbelief. Does this guy seriously know absolutely nothing? Portals are popping up everywhere. The government cannot manage them all. To cope, they hired private mercenary clans to guard the 12 sectors. These private clans are called guilds, contracted by the state for protection. In exchange for services, they receive incredible rights and dimensional energy. They get to harvest and process the valuable energy inside their dungeons. Park connects the dots. Is it basically a tax-free zone for hunting? Han nods. It is pretty much exactly like that. Park starts thinking. He originally wanted a small clan just to hunt with his pack again. But now he can own territory. Han thinks that sounds incredibly sweet. Owning a dungeon means never paying usage fees again, which is huge. Park boldly claims his true goal is to turn his clan into a guild. Han sighs. Shouldn't they focus on passing this brutal test first? He honestly wonders if Park is just pretending to be completely clueless. Up on the screen, the instructor reveals the portal in Sector 5. This specific dungeon has only 15 days left before a total dungeon break. It is a low-level labyrinth, meaning weak monsters and a confusing layout. Sadly, they won't gather much dimensional energy from such weak beasts. With that, the basic briefing of their testing ground finally concludes. Han mutters, the weak monsters are not their biggest problem here. If they get lost, they will be trapped in the labyrinth forever. Navigating is the real nightmare. They desperately need some kind of tracker. A simple tracking skill would solve half of their issues instantly. Park casually mentions he has that skill. Talk about a perfect counter. Han can barely believe it. Learning a tracking skill beforehand is incredibly rare. Plus, those specific skill books cost an absolute fortune to buy. He immediately assumes Park is some rich kid born with a silver spoon. Meanwhile, the silent monk continues to stand quietly right next to Park. Han turns and asks the monk if he has any awakened abilities. The man remains dead silent, leaving both of them scratching their heads. Suddenly, he pulls out a strange tool as we flash back to his past. A pack of vicious monsters surrounds a temple, closing in on the lone monk. They tear through the structure until another monk suddenly slides the door open. He demands they stop making noise. Meyer and Jin ask what he is doing out. At this hour of the night, the man then insists they take the monk with them and evacuate the entire area. Right then, a monster appears behind him, but he swiftly spins around and obliterates the beast. Back. In the present, that same warrior looks absolutely terrified. Han asks why he is looking so shaken. The man replies they are finally heading to the marked target. It is time to raid the dungeon under their supervisor. He hopes everyone survives this test and that nobody ends up failing soon. After, the candidates start making their way toward the glowing portal. The soldiers order everyone off the bus, asking if they are truly prepared. Once inside, they must stay quiet, act invisible, and stick to the agreement. Han points out that their squad is the only one with 3 members. He asks if the supervisor will actually help if things get too dangerous. But the supervisor completely ignores his question and coldly tells them to move. Ben Park asks why Han is so terrified, then asks if they can use their personal weapons. The soldier nods, confirming they are allowed. Surprised, Han wonders if the monk has a weapon made of dimensional material for these mercenary tests. Meanwhile, the other candidate groups are steadily entering the portal. Moments later, the guard signals Team 15 to step through. Han wonders why Park always rushes ahead, which completely ruins his nerves. He tells the kid to establish a perimeter first, but suddenly falls silent. He panics, thinking he lost points for not entering quietly and holding position. To make matters worse, his loud mouth instantly draws the local monsters. One beast leaps right in front of the protagonist. In a flash, Park grabs the beast and easily puts it down. Han comments that making noise to lure them into a trap is actually a genius strategy. He asks if Park was tracking them while moving, but right then, Han steps on a pressure plate. Hold on tight, because a volley of sharp arrows flies straight at them. Meanwhile, the monk is busy clearing out all the nearby monsters. Crying his eyes out, he tearfully apologizes, claiming everything is entirely fault. With a massive blast, the final beast is vaporized. Now back to Park. Han watches in awe as Park masterfully swings his staff, noting that he is incredible, but then Han steps on another trap. As a result, the floor collapses, sending them crashing down as the ceiling slams shut. Looking up, they realize their exit is completely sealed. Han panics, wondering if his dreams of becoming a mercenary end here, and if they are really going to die. But right then, he notices a strange rumble. They had definitely attracted a massive horde. The crying monk apologizes, explaining his awakened ability is a mass provocation skill. It essentially pulls every nearby monster straight to their location. Park smiles, saying that is perfect, since hunting them down is too boring. Without warning, he leaps out of the hole. Talk about an absolute beast. Han watches in shock, wondering how a human can kick that hard. Park tells the monk he likes him and invites him to his clan. The monk just stares blankly as a massive horde suddenly approaches. Monsters begin to emerge. Park stares them down coldly while Han activates his tracking skill, spotting every single target ahead and all the deadly traps scattered around. Han bolts. He thinks to himself that they are completely doomed. Just then, the monk thrusts his staff forward, telling Han to grab onto it. Han gasps that he has no clue what is happening, since this was not the plan. But when they scramble back up, they freeze in total shock. The monster horde is already completely wiped out by Park. Looking on, Han thinks it is insane. Park calmly orders them to keep up and watch the knocked out ones. Following his lead, they quickly move in to finish off the remaining stragglers. Watching this, the monk wonders if Park is somehow dodging the traps or using some tracking skill. His speed is unreal as he tears forward, slaying beasts while somehow turning those very traps to his advantage. looking up. The monk spots a creature lunging from behind Park. Instantly, he throws his staff, saving him. Moments later, the system notifies Park that he has earned 42 conquest points. The scene shifts to the agency headquarters. An analyst reports that a team is returning, leaving his colleague in shock. Only a few minutes have passed since the test started. It makes no sense. This trial normally takes at least 2 hours, sparking fears of a terrible accident. But the screen shows it is Team 20, and all their vitals are perfectly green. Suddenly, the chief officer gets a call. He picks up to find the supervisor, demanding to know why they are out so early, but the staff confirms that they actually cleared the whole zone. He says the supervisor will understand once he views the footage, though evaluating Park on a level 1 run will be tough, but get this, Park shattered the speed record for this dungeon. Later, the scene shifts to the bustling city where Han launches a livestream, promising his viewers daily updates about their new clan. A viewer asks what the plan is for today, and Han excitedly replies that they are going to tour the Suckland headquarters together really soon. First, he shows where the members' dorms are. Next, he visits Park's grandmother at her house, asking her to check out his rising subscriber count. Annoyed, the old lady snaps that she has way better things to do. She barks at Han to get lost before she chops him up. Han shuts up instantly. He nervously jokes that she is usually much sweeter. After that, he heads over to the room where Park and the monk are waiting. Right in the middle of the stream, Han introduces the newcomer, calling him Mong Jin, and asks him to say hello to the chat. The monk quietly shares that he lost almost everything during the brutal spirit invasion, saving only the sacred staff of clairvoyance left behind by his top disciple. Right. Then a truck pulls up outside, and Park's brother yells out to ask if they are finally ready. The whole crew packs up and heads outside. On their way to the site, a drone suddenly sweeps overhead, making Park wonder what it is and if he should shoot it down. Han is completely caught off guard and explains they are traveling to the designated mission zone in Sector 4 of Gate 30. Seeing that portal close by means their very first official mission is finally starting. Turning back to his stream, Han asks his viewers if it was just an awakened photographic memory skill, so nobody needed to panic. An even better video was coming soon. Sometime later, our hero and his crew stepped inside the dungeon. Han asked if the boy had any long-range abilities, but our hero replied that he had none. Han looked totally confused, wondering how they would defeat the bats without that setup. But the monk stepped in, telling them to relax. Right then, he began pounding on a strange drum, unleashing a deafening racket. Because of that, the entire swarm of bats came rushing right at them. Han was stunned, wondering why they were reacting like this. In no time, the horde swarmed toward the monk, who suddenly unleashed a massive fire skill, but they were not done yet as a massive boss bat descended. It had no chance, since Park instantly sliced it in half. With that, the run was officially over. Park noted that the exit gate was open and told everyone to move. Seeing the absolute chaos play out, the online stream viewers were left speechless. Soon, the scene shifted over to Miss Ra's corporate office, where she stared at the screen in complete disbelief. Her colleague remarked that given the sheer desperation of the area, 4 hunters, those 3, could easily clear 20 dungeons every single day. On top of that, they were absolutely running through every level 1 dungeon. Pulling up his screen, he watched the stream broadcast from before. Miss Ra sighed, explaining that she did everything to keep their young hero out of the headlines, but one of his own guild members was a popular content creator. Her colleague added that Park's channel ranked 3rd in real-time trending charts, warning that it would keep blowing up if ignored. He asked if they should step in. Miss Ra, on the other hand, made it clear she was fully aware. At the same time, she watched a battle recording of 2 powerful warriors, where one had effortlessly crushed the other. The fighter she was analyzing was Lei Seung Woo, a double S rank Irregular born in South Korea, she wondered what would happen if the government approached him too carelessly under the guise of safeguarding special talent, only to face a secondary threat as dangerous as Lee Sun-woo. Standing up, she ordered her team to arrange a meeting with our hero, deciding that she would handle this meeting herself. Soon, the scene cuts back to our heroes home, where Han asked if the monk had any actual job to attend to. Park questioned where he could even go since he had no temple of his own. Jun-ho replied that the monk was staying in Seoul with a temple family who made it through that crisis. Seeing Han's annoyance, Jun-ho asked if the beastly guy could not at least take a break, especially since their clan was about to upgrade its rank. Additionally, the guild balance had climbed to a staggering 140 million, leaving the boy completely stunned by the news. He realized that even though he did nothing but collect simple blood crystals, he somehow secured 20 million within just 3 days. Park watched his reaction in silence as the young hunter rambled about how crazy this was, imagining the massive wave of streamed donations. Meanwhile, Park realized he had accumulated over 3,000 conquest points, meaning he could unlock some incredible new skills. Deciding to lay low, he told the group that he was going to take the day off. Standing up, Jun-ho announced he would take his son and grandmother out for a walk nearby. At that same moment, the elderly woman seemed. Park feeds his dog and starts wondering, could animals actually awaken just like humans? Moments later, he calls over his brother, Jun-ho, to talk about their truck. Park points out how often it breaks down and asks if it is getting too exhausting. Jun-ho admits he barely knows where to start fixing the old thing anymore. Finding replacement parts is a nightmare, and the labor is completely draining. So Park casually suggests buying a brand new ride, making Jun-ho incredibly excited. Cut to a local dealership where the brothers consult with a sales manager. The dealer eagerly goes over every single feature of the cars. Park asks his brother if he likes the option, and Jun-ho nods eagerly. With the decision locked in, Park offers to pay cold cash on the spot. He wants to drive it off the lot today. Soon, they roll out in style. Jun-ho is absolutely ecstatic, praising how incredible his new smooth ride feels. It is a massive step up from their old junker. Park just smiles. He says even the passenger seat is top tier and they should have upgraded sooner. Suddenly, Jun-ho notices the route. Why exactly are they heading toward Area 34? Is not that place a heavily restricted danger zone? Park just smiles. Remember when Jun-ho said he could not awaken due to lack of money? Well, today is the day they finally change that. Next, they arrive. They pull up to the quiet, eerie destination and scan the surroundings. Ruined, crumbling houses litter the area. Jun-ho immediately gets cold feet. Their dog is also growling, completely on edge. Park looks at the pet. He asks if the dog smells that foul stench. It is definitely a goblin. Jun-ho gets increasingly nervous and begs his brother to turn back. Instead, Park hops out of the car, promising he will return shortly. He tells Jun-ho to wait inside with the dog, then leaps away. Jun-ho is left utterly stressed. Meanwhile, the scene shifts over to another location. In a dark room, a mysterious group is analyzing footage of Park. One of the men points out that Park is a massive sensation online. He is classified as an irregular, meaning his true power is unmeasurable. The leader sighs. At that level, hiring regular hitmen is totally useless. Still, they cannot just sit back and let this guy run wild. He immediately demands a complete list of sponsored guilds currently operating inside Area 4. One specific name comes to mind, but he has someone better. He orders his team to contact this specialist, no matter the cost. They will pay whatever it takes. Later, rain pours over the city. The elderly grandmother, Sukja, walks home, thinking about doing her laundry. Out of nowhere, a dark sedan abruptly screeches to a halt beside her. Men step out, intimidatingly asking if she is indeed the woman named Sukja. They claim to be from the return department and demand to meet Park. Hearing their demands, the elderly woman stays completely silent, refusing to speak. Back in the pouring rain, Junho waits anxiously inside his brand new car. He cannot see a thing through the downpour, wondering what Park is doing. Suddenly, the dogs start growling like crazy. A goblin leaps out from the shadows. But before it can strike, a figure easily obliterates the beast. It is Park. As both brothers step outside, more monsters begin crawling out from the dark. Park hands a dagger to his brother, telling him to tag along while he handles the killing. Terrified, the young boy begs him to wait, but Park coldly demands to know why. Junho hesitates, questioning if awakening like this is really even necessary for him. Park responds that the weak do not survive here. That is exactly why he has to kill them now. That is why he must learn to kill. Suddenly, another goblin lunges forward. The beast charges straight for their dog. Park immediately commands the pet to bite down. Sinking its teeth in, the brave dog fiercely bites the monster's arm. But it is not enough. Park points out that the young hound is simply too weak. Without weakening the beast first, their loyal dog will surely be torn to pieces. Park orders Junho to step in and help, demanding that he finish the beast off. Yet his brother remains frozen in fear, while the dog is nearly eaten alive. Seeing his pet on the verge of death, Junho snaps and charges the monster. He drives his blade deep to save the dog, but the strike is too shallow. Park barks at him to keep going. Adrenaline surging, Junho unleashes a frantic assault. It is finally over. His hands are completely covered in thick, dark blood. He stares at the gore in absolute horror, but Park coldly tells him to move. Park orders him to retrieve the weapon, but Junho begs, saying he cannot do this. Park warns him that failing to kill means his own death. Suddenly, the dog growls again. Another goblin crawls out from the shadows. Park tells him to keep up with the hunt. Time is rapidly running out. Overwhelmed with fear, Junho's mind suddenly drifts to his past. He remembers the cruel, relentless bullying he used to endure, completely alone and helpless. Back then, Park ignored him, leaving him entirely alone to face the torment. But now, things are different. Park is actively pushing him to become strong. Realizing this, something inside Junho snaps. The raw terror in his expression completely fades. He accepts his brutal new reality and firmly grips the blood-soaked dagger once more. It is true, he mutters, he has always been weak. With a roar, he charges forward. He easily slices the beast, screaming at it to shut its mouth and just die. He splits its face right down the middle, brutally hacking at it on the ground. The slaughter ends. Fresh dark blood begins to wash away under the heavy rain. Junho has changed. The terrified boy from just a few moments ago is gone. The fear in his face is replaced by a chilling, dead-eyed killer stare. Another goblin lunges, but Junho instantly reacts and blocks the strike. Both crash to the ground, but Junho refuses to let go. He finishes off the beast and quickly stands back up. He realizes that this dark, intoxicating rush of power feels incredibly good. Meanwhile, Park watches his younger brother from a high rooftop. Junho's newly unlocked class is Butcher, a cute little evolution indeed. Park jokingly asks if he used to work part-time at a slaughterhouse. With a cold, terrifying glare, Junho mutters a very sharp no. His heavy, threatening gaze remains locked on Park as he slowly walks over. Up on the roof, a pile of dead goblins lies scattered around Park. The exhausted boy decides to rest. Later, they head over to the awakened association. Both brothers walk inside, completely drenched from head to toe in monster blood. The receptionist gasps in shock, demanding to know what happened to them. Park casually replies that Junho just awakened. The stunned woman begs them to wash up first. First, he needs a quick medical screening to clear him of any diseases. After that, he can head to the third-floor dimensional energy room. While walking up, Junho asks about that meter. Park explains. It measures dimensional energy, and they need a specific score. Specifically, over 100 just to qualify as a basic F rank awakened. He failed with a 96, leaving Junho completely baffled by how he passed. It makes zero sense. Inside, the doctor tells Junho to lie down. Looking up, he spots a glowing energy orb floating above him. Suddenly, the screen flashes 101. He actually passed. The doctor tells him to proceed to the ability manifestation room next. He asks if Park is testing too. Soon, Park lies down. Looking up, the system warns that something is watching and recording him. As a sudden reflex, he snaps his eyes wide open right away. 189. Talk about a massive jump. Park is absolutely stunned. The assistant notes his energy has skyrocketed, matching all the wild rumors. Park is skeptical, asking if this device is even accurate. The girl confidently responds that their top scientists built the device themselves. A bit later, that very same girl returns with their results. She happily announces that the official results for both Park and Junho are ready. They even receive brand new cell phones as a welcoming registration gift. This means Junho is now fully qualified to take the mercenary test. While Junho celebrates, Park asks if he felt anything weird inside. But Junho felt nothing. Park wonders if he is just too sensitive. Asking if it is because Junho lacks his sensitivity before questioning his ability. His brother looks back and calmly replies, "It is decapitation." Leaving the building, they cross paths with Choi's group. Park approaches them. The thug next to her warns that this punk has a death wish, until he recognizes him. Park quickly apologizes to Choi for the tension, explaining he still is not used to talking with civilized folks. The girl coldly responds that they will not meet again. As she leaves, Park sighs, admitting it is a real shame. She is the captain, but her personality is incredibly toxic. Next, we cut to the Suho clan house. Miso sits with an elderly woman, enjoying some excellent wine. The old woman smiles, loving that the young girl has such a healthy appetite. She explains her late husband brewed this 10 years ago, passing away before tasting it. Miso worries that Park is taking too long, but then he arrives. Junho's excited son welcomes him home, while Miso walks over to greet him. The boy asks who she is. Checking her stats, Park gasps. She is a rank A, level 2 returnee captain. He asks why she is here. Miso explains she wants a contract. She asks if he knows the official term for returnees. When Park says no, she reveals they are called human coordinates, asking if he returned to Earth by crossing through a red portal. She explains that crossing through that gateway triggers highly specific conditions. Soon, a permanent bridge portal will open up, allowing people to travel back and forth. He goes quiet. His chance to find his friends is finally here. According to Miso, they suspect this place is the fourth planet. If her assumptions are completely correct, South Korea will hold the sole gateway to this planet. This means they get an absolute monopoly. Naturally, Park immediately asks when it forms. Miso responds that the gate will take at least 99 days to form. Hearing that, our overpowered protagonist immediately asks what she actually wants from him in return. She simply wants him to stay completely hidden and out of sight until it finally opens. Miso warns him that she does not want another rogue like the infamous Lei. Still completely lost, Park demands to know who the heck this Lee guy is. Miso explains that this legendary hunter is currently the top-ranked powerhouse in the entire world. Detention. During the early stages of the Great Disaster, the government locked up returnees. They claimed protection, but they knew absolutely nothing about these irregulars. Thanks to that ignorance, a D-tier irregular named Sayak Wu easily broke out. Since he awakened right upon his return, escaping their lockdown was a total piece of cake. In fact, all 9,000 active gates in Tokyo are entirely because of him. If a breach happens while he relaxes, South Korea faces absolute ruin. Park hears her out, then asks what kind of reward he will get if he cooperates. Miso promises him anything, so Park immediately demands a promotion for his guild. He wants exclusive guild territory, while Ham silently listens closely from across the room. Miso takes notes of his demands, asking if there is anything else. Park simply asks if she actually knows when these portals will start appearing. The girl says an expert agent in dimensional energy disruptions is being dispatched. And she happens to be the absolute best tracker in their entire department. Flashback, Park casually asks Choi if she wants to have his babies. The flustered girl demands to know if he is seriously playing with her. A nearby agent watching them wonders why her reaction is so extreme. Highly irritated, Choi mutters that she should have thrown Park into prison. Miso suddenly appears right there, asking them what on earth is going on. Choi snaps that she is in a horrible mood and to leave her alone. Miso ignores the attitude, handing her a crucial new file. Choi looks over the documents, asking why she is being assigned this mission. Miso explains that Choi is easily the absolute best in the team at detection. She asks Choi what she thinks will happen if a portal opens downtown, especially a completely random one leading to a world they know nothing about. Honestly, that is a terrifying thought. Choi admits it would be actual hell. Miso instructs her that if she spots any signs of a breach, move. She must grab the protagonist and abandon the field without a single delay. Choi is strictly ordered not to leave his side no matter what. She reluctantly agrees. Miso leaves, and a fuming Choi mutters that she will resign soon. Later, we cut to Park's house, where everyone is in a fantastic mood. Cherno asks why Park is so happy, and Ham explains the promotion. Their guild officially passed the evaluation to level up starting today. This means they are now cleared to raid dungeons up to level 2. Park is thrilled, but Cherno warns him that level 2 is dangerous. They would need to form a rank P group, but their numbers are just too small. Cherno asks if focusing on simple level 1 dungeons might be the smarter play. Han agrees that Cherno makes a good point, but with Park on their side, he feels unstoppable. Level 2 dungeons should be a breeze, but Park wants to secure some quick cash first. They will farm level 1 zones, make good money, and grab skill books to level up. Once they are strong enough, they can start recruiting more members for a proper raid team. Just after they finish planning, the monk steps up and introduces himself to the crew. Everyone welcomes him warmly, asking if he has eaten, and the monk nods in reply. He confirms he is ready to set out immediately, and a convoy of cars begins moving. The hunters head straight toward the active portal, but someone nearby catches sight of them. A lone man watches the main character's party closely before walking over to Park. He greets him warmly, saying it has been ages, and asks where his old crew is. Suddenly, the man's expression shifts to hesitation, while Park looks entirely confused by the encounter. Park says his friends are doing well, but wonders why this man is with a temporary group. Before he can answer, the man's party calls out to him that it is time to leave. He bids them goodbye and runs off, prompting the monk to ask who that guy was. Park shrugs it off as an old dungeon teammate and suggests they focus on entering the portal. Meanwhile, a strange man watches the group head toward the gate. He seems to smile to himself as the other hunting group prepares to make their move. They call out to head inside, while the man silently reflects on a painful truth. He simply could not bring himself to tell Park that his own clan had completely fallen apart. His closest companions had abandoned him, claiming they needed time off for medical treatment. It is the same old tragic story. A small guild crumbles the second its core members walk out. Low-level clans are easy to make and even easier to break apart. In a brutal world of kill or be killed, the mental stress quickly pushes anyone over the edge. Clanless mercenaries usually clump together as temporary day groups just to survive the dungeons. He clings to the hope that a true comrade must be out there somewhere among them. With that dream in mind, he resolves to start over from scratch, no matter what. The scene shifts to Shu riding her motorcycle early in the morning, ready for action. Misei rings her up, promising to send the exact coordinate details straight to her. Inside the dungeon, the main character is absolutely shredding through waves of monsters. Han shouts in excitement, thrilled by how insanely powerful his new skill book is. Nearby, Juno fights desperately, pouring everything he has into tearing down the beasts. A monster sneaks up behind him, but Juno senses it and instantly shuts it down. Watching this, Han is stunned to see a confident smirk on Juno's face. Park observes the combat from a safe high point, realizing these three can handle this easily. Suddenly, a strange light flashes through the trees, and things are about to get real. A frantic hunter bursts into view, running for his life from a pack of beasts. The man from earlier rushes in to back him up, but it barely makes a difference. He yells at his ally, demanding to know why a firebomb was thrown right at him. In the chaos, the other hunter is snatched up by a beast and instantly dragged away. Slumped on the bloody dirt, he realizes their temporary team has hit its bitter end. A wave of jealousy hits him as he thinks of how secure Park's crew must be. But he refuses to lie down and die. He will drag himself back up to fight. Han remarks that he feels much faster and less exhausted during this run. It is settled from here on out they are splitting up into separate teams, but then a strange man steps forward and asks if they belong to the Suvo clan. Our young hero demands to know exactly who he is. The stranger introduces himself as Cho Mong-woo and claims he is representing the B Guild. Everyone freezes in shock because this is a massive deal. Ranked 20th nationwide, the man claims it is a pure coincidence that their paths crossed. Here, he is just looking to offer a friendly gift. Apparently, he heard they leveled up, so he wants to hand them a free entry ticket to a level 2.0 dungeon. Han gets immediately excited since an invite to this place is worth 10 million won. Mong-woo asks if they want to head in right now. But the others hesitate, asking if they should actually prepare first before tackling a level 2 zone. He tells them not to worry at all because strategies are fully set. Top gear is provided as a gift. Han eagerly tells our main lead that this support is perfect, but Suvo has other plans. He orders his team to focus on a level 1 zone for practice, while he tackles the tougher level 2 dungeon alone. Hearing this, the stranger smiles with pure malice. Big mistake if you ask me. Still, the team obeys Suvo. Mong-woo guides the young man to his car. While driving to the dungeon, the man notes they are heading for Portal 47. Suvo mentions he does not see any other mercenaries around. The guide explains that since this portal just formed, he already cleared the paperwork, so our hero can step right inside. He claims they would love to keep hosting the Suvo clan in the future. The young man simply replies that he prefers portals close by. Stepping out of the vehicle, the guide gets word that everything is prepared. A nearby guard hands over the dungeon strategy notes and a standard survival kit. Before stepping through, our hero looks back, promising they will grab a bite together later. Mong-woo waves and bids him farewell, telling him to clear it fast so they can grab drinks. Right after, the kid secures his helmet. He steps inside the portal. Just then, a rider pulls up. She removes her helmet and asks if Suvo already entered. The man nods, questioning her identity as Khlo dashes straight toward the portal, yelling that she is a clan member and is going in too. The man smiles wickedly. Shortly after, Mong-woo negotiates with a contact, demanding 2 billion per target. The associate complains about the insane price, since this is not a hit job. The guide answers that while tricking them is easy, the risk is massive, because the kid is extremely famous. Meanwhile, the woman who entered the portal had previously met up with our hero's team to ask where he went. After learning the truth, she immediately speeds off on her bike to catch him. She contacts Miso, explaining that the target is heading to a totally different portal, and she is in hot pursuit. Miso orders Choi to enter the gate with him to personally observe and report back on his combat abilities with her own eyes. The girl sighs, arguing that a low-level dungeon is boring and that she is not wearing the right gear. Miso points out that she already has her booster bracelet on. The girl retorts she prefers this look. Miso then promises a massive double bonus for any damage she causes inside. Choi asks if this is necessary. Miso only questions her courage. Getting to Suho is the top priority. While driving, Choi remembers her talk with the client. The woman claimed she already held the contract, and Choi replied that guarantees are just basic business. Present day, Choi steps directly into the glowing blue portal. On the other side, Suho immediately notes how different the heavy air feels. Just then, he notices movement in the gate as Choi suddenly tumbles through. She desperately yells for him to close his eyes since her clothes vanished during transit. But with a quick tap of her magic bracelet, a brand new outfit instantly materializes. She should have asked for a triple bonus, and now she feels completely humiliated. That is when she realizes Suho just saw the entire embarrassing situation. Super annoyed, she snaps at him since she explicitly told him to look away. Trying to stay cool, Suho compliments the bracelet and asks if it stores items. Choi completely ignores him. How long has he been watching? No big deal, she saw him shirtless before, so they are perfectly even. Shaking the embarrassment off, he asks why she actually bothered coming all this way. Choi proudly announces she is here to act as his guardian. Oh great, he assumed they would send someone actually competent. Getting highly defensive, she snaps back that she is easily the most qualified person available. Suho looks her over and bluntly says she does not look like it. He tells her she can tag along, but strictly warns her never to touch his prey. Choi scoffs she only came to evaluate his actual skills anyway. Hold on, she notes they already have a massive welcome party. A huge beast looms right in front of them, and she jokes about his luck. But Suho calmly corrects her, pointing out there are actually 4 bosses. Right on cue, 3 more massive monsters emerge from the dark. This is impossible. A level 2 dungeon shouldn't be like this. Suho calmly replies that this is absolutely not a standard level 2 dungeon at all. He asks if she failed to notice the pressure inside the portal. Completely blocked, her magical bracelet filtered out the spatial pressure entirely. No help, Suho commands her not to interfere no matter what. A violent shockwave erupts. Seriously, how can anyone move that fast? Instantly closing the gap, Suho sends the first orc crashing backward. Snatched, he grabs the heavy axe and decapitates the beast midair. As the second orc lunges, Suho hurls the weapon directly into its skull. Evading the third beast, he swings on a vine to break its line of sight. Exploiting the distraction, he drops down right on top of the beast. Meanwhile outside, Mangu smugly tells his client to prepare the payment immediately. He boasts that even an S-rank hunter cannot possibly escape this trap. Back inside, Suho pulverizes his target, leaving Choi completely speechless. As the final orc stomps forward, Suho just grins with absolute confidence. Why worry about dungeon levels when his only job is to slaughter everything? He easily slips past the creature's massive swing and delivers a devastating kick. The orc gets impaled on a tree branch, earning him 32 conquest points. Talk about a massive payday, right? Suho calls this a total gold mine. He tells her to help him harvest the valuable blood crystals immediately. Choi stands amazed that an F-rank irregular could display such monstrous power. She caught a trace of hesitation in his brutal movements. It made her wonder if he was some kind of actual psychopath. Suddenly, she whispered the command, "Search." Meanwhile, as they gathered loot, Suho noticed that even the blood crystals were massive. But Choi snapped that they had no time for this. Naturally, Suho asked her why. She explained that despite killing 4 massive orcs, the exit gate remained locked, and their inventory bag held nothing but useless stones. Suho shrugged and muttered he could still use the pouch to hold his crystals, but Choi warned that this dungeon was at least level 4. Surviving this place together would be next to impossible. Even if they fought side by side, suddenly Suho realized Mimu had totally tricked him into entering a high-threat level 4 dungeon. Furious, he yelled out that he Was going to pay that old guy back big time once they made it out. Choi could only sigh at his utter stupidity. Suddenly, a fifth savage orc charged right. Straight toward her, she raised her hands to block, but she was completely unarmed. Since her trusty sword was still sitting back on her motorcycle, luckily, Suho leapt in to save her, telling her to relax since he was plenty strong. Even if he used to be better, just then, Choi felt a chilling vibe. Activating her clairvoyance, her eyes widened as she saw multiple monsters closing in. She panicked. An entire squad of orcs was surrounding them, led by a deadly war chief. Suho just grinned. The boss might be missing, but the prey kept rolling in. The beasts charged forward on giant wolves, leaving him completely thrilled. He warned Choi not to interfere because every last one belonged to him. Choi quickly deployed her energy shield for defense. Meanwhile, the unstoppable young warrior kept tearing through the mob, decapitating enemies left and right. Choi summoned a temporary weapon from her dimensional inventory, slashing down a nearby beast. Still, she desperately missed her main sword. Suho suddenly cut in, shouting to stay away from his targets as he kept harvesting heads, but in the next split second, a brutal club smashed into him. It belonged to the massive orc war chief. Yet the boy bounced right back up, asking if this ugly beast was the leader. The giant lunged forward without a word, but Suho dodged and plunged his knife deep into its flesh. Choi called out to check if it was dead, but that blow was not enough to put the monster down. Meanwhile, Miso asked if Choi followed Suho, but both their phone trackers had been completely frozen in separate spots for an hour. Miso remained convinced they were together, pulling over the car to think things through. For a bit while they double-checked their gear, that was when they realized that the young warrior had left his mobile phone right inside the truck. While Choi left hers on her bike, Miso urgently ordered a trace on Choi, only to find out she was trapped inside a dangerous, newly opened level 5 dungeon. Shocked, she demanded to know who was currently managing the DGB Guild portal. She ordered them to get on the line immediately. Back in the dungeon, Suho got blasted back by another hit as the horde pressed forward. Things were getting tough. He muttered, springing to his feet. He pinned down a charging monster, ripped away its twin axes, and hurled them back into the crowd. Instantly, arrows rained down on them. Choi scrambled to dodge the volley but ended up tripping. The beast surged forward to finish her off, but she pulled out her explosive, triggering a massive blast that vaporized them. Once again, Suho protected her from the orc chief strikes, pulling her away. Choi screams to ask what he's doing. Suho just yells back that they have to run, but she says they're surrounded. Monsters swarm every corner, but Suho points toward a seemingly empty path ahead. Choi cries out that it's a dead-end cliff, which is exactly his plan. Suho scoops her up in a bridal carry, telling her to hold on tight. Without a second thought, they leap straight off the cliff. Behind them, monsters howl. Suho crashes hard onto the ground, cushioning her fall, while the beasts crash down. The pursuing orcs lie broken on the rocks. Choi slowly opens her eyes in shock. She can't believe she's actually alive. Suho drops his heavy gear onto the dirt. He sets her down roughly, muttering that he nearly met his end right there. Choi stares at him, absolutely speechless, looking up at the massive height they just fell. How did they survive a drop like that? Soon, they seek shelter inside a cave. Huddled in the dark, she asks what their next move is. What is his plan? He tells her he only needs to slay 4 more orc warriors to level up. Once he hits that next level, they strike back. Choi looks at him, skeptical. She points out that leveling up just raises limits. It doesn't instantly make you stronger. But for Suho, a level up unlocks everything. It breaks his physical limits completely. He grows significantly stronger with every single level. Cut to sirens wailing outside the dungeon. 2 ambulances race toward the scene. The entire gate is now heavily cordoned off. Reporters crowd the perimeter, broadcasting the unfolding crisis to a shocked public. Back in the crowd, Han and his team watch in absolute despair. The news reports that a suspect claimed Suho, and Choi entered the gate willingly. But his lies didn't hold up. The military official quickly broke down and confessed. Media outlets swarmed the guilty officer, demanding to know what the victim's final words were. They shout questions, asking if Suho left any message before disappearing. Watching the broadcast, a shadowy figure scowls. He never expected Choi to be an agent. With her tied to the department, the public focus shifts entirely. People pray for their rescue, labeling Suho as a returnee from the fourth planet. Meanwhile, Miso storms into the office, demanding to know why they aren't mobilizing. The director sighs, explaining that the immediate culprit is already in cuffs. The lone shark boss fled, but they have put a massive bounty on him. The mastermind is running, but his days are numbered with a bounty out. Miso snaps back that this is just cutting ties. This is a level 5 dungeon. Does the director honestly believe a single lowlife pulled this off? He fires back, asking if she wants to wage war on a level 5 guild. Well, digging into them magically brings Suho and Choi back from the dead. But Miso insists they have more than enough evidence to act. The director points out that Suho is just a survivor from the fourth planet. He might only be a simple dungeon survivor, not some legendary warrior. On screen, the broadcast shifts to a segment on rising dungeon crimes. Underground syndicates are abusing gates, sparking public outrage nationwide. People demand strict oversight and severe punishment for negligent guilds. The director explains they are feeding the media to pressure the guild. If public pressure builds, it might force the guild to finally cooperate. Tears streaming down her face, she whispers that this is all her fault. Even after sending Choi there, the director wondered if she believed he was completely heartless. He couldn't do anything about the situation back then. Still, those empty words meant nothing. Her guilt ran incredibly deep, and nothing could ease her aching heart. Meanwhile, the scene shifts right back to Park inside the dungeon. A stray orc wanders nearby. Completely blindsided by a strange creature it has never seen before, it lunges instantly, trying to snatch the beast, but the agile target slips away and charges straight back. The monster flails, but every strike misses. Suddenly, a figure looms directly overhead. Park swiftly executes the green-skinned monster, and a bright notification suddenly pops up. They just secured 32 conquest points. Park grins, he is incredibly close now. Just 3 more points and he will finally level up. Meanwhile, Choi activates her clairvoyant skill to locate their next target, roughly 100 meters out. In seconds, Park leaps forward and closes the distance to land right behind the beast. However, the monster notices him immediately, prompting Choi to scream a frantic warning. It is a trap, but it is too late as Park triggers the snare and crashes hard against the dirt, heavily injured. Right after the orc signals his allies, summoning a swarm of monsters that surrounds Choi, she rushes to Park's side, desperately pleading with him to stand. Shaking off his daze, Park realizes they are completely surrounded. The realization hits him hard. He fell hook, line, and sinker for their trap. His head spins as his vision blurs, the poison draining all strength from his body. He cannot muster any power, yet he refuses to give up because he has survived far worse hells. Activating her inventory, Choi hurls explosive bombs directly at the horde, obliterating several monsters in a massive flash. Seizing this brief window, Park drags himself up and unsheathes his sharp dagger. He cuts down several more, needing just one final kill to level up. But before he can deliver the blow, a brutal strike violently hits him from another monster. Slumped on the ground, Choi watches the entire disaster, dryly remarking that the orc is incredibly fat. Suddenly, Park is thrown toward another beast. They collide and tumble, and Park's heavy axe is knocked away, spinning through the air until it lands squarely on a monster's skull. The system rings out, confirming a massive gain of 1,075 conquest points, and asking if he wants to unlock the beast transformation. He remains dead silent. Meanwhile, the towering orc steps toward Choi. She whispers that she has 0 strength left to even stand back at the quiet clan house. The grandmother calls their dog for dinner, worrying since it has been 2 full days without any news from either of them, back in the dungeon. Choi is facing certain death, but Park finally triggers his beast transformation, sending his spirit home. The family dog begins to look different as a crackling sphere of pure energy envelops its entire body. In utter disbelief, the old grandmother asks what is happening. Back in the dark dungeon, Park is shrouded in a pitch-black aura, his body warping and changing his form. Razor-sharp claws erupt from his hands, erasing any trace of his human appearance. Just then the monster strikes Choi, leaving her battered and drained of all fight. Suddenly, Park emerges in his mighty wolf form, standing defiantly before the orc. He instantly grabs its head, leaving Choi to stare in absolute shock, wondering if it was definitely a werewolf. Right then, Park Seo, transformed as a wolf, began unleashing a series of brutal attacks on the beast, even biting it right on the neck. The system notified him that he gained 45 conquest points. The fight seemed to be over. Choi, still in total shock, watched him, asking if he was truly Park Seo. The boy just barked a few times, apparently confirming that it was true. Dumbfounded, the girl asked if he was a dog or a wolf. Suddenly, the scene cuts back to the reporters, announcing that it was now the 3rd day since the people had gone missing. There was absolutely no news of them since they stepped inside the dungeon. A reporter then asked the director to explain what kind of dungeon it actually was. The director explained it was a level 5 dungeon known as Orc Castle, where it was highly recommended to take at least a party of 30 rank B or higher hunters. The scene then shifts back to the giant wolf, still surrounded by that bizarre glowing energy sphere. The elderly lady stood there in complete disbelief, wondering what on earth that was. At the same time, the focus switches to Choi, who looked completely stunned. Park Seo had finally changed back to his human form, explaining that he could fuse with the beast he tamed. Glancing to the side, Choi noticed the girl asking what she was doing. They needed to collect all the monster loot they could to roast and eat later, but she sadly replied that it was completely pointless, since this dungeon would soon become their grave. Park still had no clue what she was talking about. The girl pointed out that even though the orc war chief was dead, the gate still had not opened. She asked him what that meant, warning him they might be trapped in here forever. Park then asked if she meant that dead monster was not the real chief. Choi nodded, explaining that an even stronger monster was lurking there. Park asked what kind of beast could make Choi think she would die without a fight. She then revealed a dark story from 3 years ago, back when they had first risen to rank B. The association had sent a force of 20 hunters, along with 10 rank mercenaries, on a mission inside that level 5 dungeon. In the memory, an unknown veteran hunter looked down at Choi, asking if her ankle was okay. She quickly told him not to worry about her, saying she felt much better. Suddenly, the scene cuts to several orcs charging straight at their group. The leader yelled to keep their formation as they pushed toward the central tower. Instantly, the hunters began slaughtering the orcs right in front of them. The leader kept barking orders to keep them moving, but he was suddenly killed on the spot. Right after, Choi fell to the ground. The orcs rushed toward her while she sat there paralyzed, completely unable to move from absolute terror. Thankfully, another hunter leaped in to save her, successfully wiping out the monsters nearby. Miso, in the middle of the chaotic battle, told them to clear a path, slaying any beast in sight, shouting for Choi and her savior to fall back immediately. The young man grabbed her hand, insisting they run, but Choi held back, saying that something felt seriously wrong with the dungeon. The guy insisted they could talk later once they got out of there safely. With that, they began sprinting to escape the beasts, yet a strange, menacing energy was suddenly radiating from the other side. Ahead, a massive, terrified monster was standing right on top of that. Just then, her arm snaps out of its socket, sending Choi crashing down. A sharp katana clatters right before her, while Miso and the group watch They stare in complete horror. Their captain has just been brutally slaughtered. That monstrous goblin stands there with tears in its eyes as Choi watches. With his final breath, the dying captain mentions the sword, but Choi can only wonder who cares about some stupid weapon. Still, she remembers his teachings about pouring her deepest feelings directly into her blade. To treat the cold steel and her own body as one single, breathing entity. She had to grip it like it was everything. In the flashback, the man is brutally finished off, leaving a traumatized Choi to watch. We immediately cut back to the present, where Park stands in the pouring rain. He quietly observes the trembling girl, and slowly, Park walks up to her and wraps her in a warm hug, asking what happened to her. Meanwhile, Han is in utter despair, frantically wondering what they will do if he leaves them. But wait, things outside are getting absolutely insane. Reporters announce that a legendary shaman is performing a ritual to save him. On top of that, an elite strike force of high-rankers from the Sioux district is gathering at the dungeon gates, completely focused on bloody revenge. One man sweat drops, muttering that if they had just joined the Sioux Guild from the start, none of this would have happened. Far away, a mysterious man watches the news. Suddenly, a girl playfully grabs him from behind and asks what he is watching, but he scoffs that no matter how much time passes, that country's foolish sentimentality will always remain the same. We then cut to a quiet cave, where our hero eats beside the girl, cheerfully praising the food, and Park notices how much she enjoys eating. She blushes and asks if eating 12 burgers is really that shocking. After all, she is finally full. Park looks completely baffled, asking how, since he is already on his 22nd burger. Still, she thanks him. Suddenly, a strange, warm light begins to glow all around them. Park asks if she used that sword to kill the Orc Lord, but Choi says no, explaining that she fainted on the spot and woke up in the hospital next to Miso, who saved her master's sword. Apparently, 2 high-rank mercenaries sacrificed their lives just to defeat it. Park frowns, asking if an active Orc Lord is really lurking out. But Choi explains it was likely an Orc castle, even though nothing is within a 1-kilometer radius. Just then, that spirit from earlier reappears right at the entrance. Choi mentions that usually 4 warchiefs guard separate outposts, with the Lord himself reigning dead in the center. Right then, the little spirit hovers beside Park, holding vital information. Park smiles, realizing she found the castle, and stands up immediately, saying they must go at once, leaving Choi to ask if he has a plan. He simply replies that they will find them and end them. Choi wants to smack him, but honestly cannot think of a better strategy. The scene cuts directly to the Orc castle, where the massive gates slowly creak open, and wolf-riding beasts begin their menacing march. Out of nowhere, Park appears with Choi riding on his back as they head toward the castle. The orcs spot them and immediately block the path. Choi spots the danger ahead. She warns him that those elite orc knights are right on their tail, and they need to move fast. Suddenly, the beasts draw their bows, but Choi blocks the arrows with a glowing magic shield before they leap onto the bridge. To cover their escape, Choi hurls a bomb, triggering a massive, earth-shaking explosion. With the blast clearing a path, Choi urges him to draw the monsters away. She looks up only to see more monsters descending directly on them. Suddenly, a beast grabs Choi, dragging her down into a free fall, but she shouts for him to keep running and not worry about her. Swinging herself onto a castle ledge, she recovers, only for more enemies to surround her. Choi instantly draws her sword as Park continues climbing to the top. He finally reaches the peak, stepping into a massive throne room where a terrifying boss goblin is waiting. Seeing the intruder, the massive beast stands up. But before he can react, Park lunges, biting his neck and slamming him down. Just like that, the boss is done. Instantly, a system notification announces a major level up, but the entire castle suddenly starts crumbling down around them. Plummeting amidst the debris, Choi braces for death, but Park suddenly dives and catches her hand in midair. Relieved, she asks about the Orc Lord. Park calmly tells her the boss is dead and they need to find the exit. Quickly, they bolt toward the portal, hot-footing it away from the remaining beasts. Choi is still in complete shock, asking if he actually defeated the boss so quickly. He nods, telling her to scan the door. Choi activates her sensory ability and is stunned to find that the exit portal is wide open. Her mind races. Did he seriously take down a raid boss that fast? Meanwhile, inside a high-tech analysis van, monitoring screens start flashing with shocking data confirming the CT-27 dungeon is actually opening up. Outside the dungeon, the entire crowd of onlookers gasps in sheer disbelief. A reporter announces that the countdown to the dungeon breach has officially begun. The spectators erupt in cheers, while back inside, our duo is still running. Sweating bullets, Park asks Choi if she has located the exit gate yet. Choi excitedly confirms, shouting that the door is just up ahead and close. But suddenly, Park catches a strange scent and abruptly changes direction. Confused, Choi asks why he is detouring when they are almost out of time. Park casually replies that he just wants to grab a quick drink. Turning the corner, they run into a pack of wolves, and he orders them to follow. The beasts actually obey, leaving Choi shocked that he is bringing these predators along. He cheerfully nods, declaring that these wolves are officially part of his new family. Suddenly, they run right into that massive horde of orcs again. Choi panics, crying out that they are surrounded, but Park remains completely calm. He explains that a friend told him about a secret exit nearby. Activating her skill once more, Choi points and tells him to turn right. They make it through, but Choi warns there is only 1 minute left. The seconds begin ticking away, counting down rapidly from 23. In that split second, a stray arrow comes flying straight at Choi. An arrow pierces the young girl, sending her crashing down. Hungry orcs charge instantly. Park has to turn back and help her. Choi screams for him to run, but he completely ignores her. He fights, he fiercely swings, and drops the nearest monster in his path. Meanwhile, outside, the news reporter counts 8 agonizing seconds since the gate sealed. The anxious crowd holds its breath, praying they will return safely. Deep inside the fading portal, Park is locked in a truly relentless struggle to survive. He scoops up the girl. She quietly whispers that only 4 seconds remain. He urges her to hold on tight, preparing for a wild leap. The boy launches forward into the air, just as the timer outside finally hits absolute zero. A blinding flash of light erupts, and the dungeon appears completely destroyed. No way, the devastated news reporter announces that all hope is officially gone. Everyone assumed they had perished inside, but then something unexpected begins to happen. Several wild wolves slowly begin to emerge from the smoky, ruined gate. He is back. Park walks out carrying Choi. Stunned onlookers point toward the sky, shouting out in absolute shock. They scramble closer to inspect the strange falling figure, realizing it is a human. It is Park and Choi, both somehow alive after their ordeal. The reporter excitedly screams that a complete miracle happened, announcing their safe return after 4 days. Miso notes that the two were taken to the hospital immediately after. She explains the viral photo was snapped right outside the gateway. Multiple sensational headlines about their wild survival quickly begin dominating all major news networks. The director watches, commenting that the media is being overly dramatic. Miso explains that someone leaked the story to fuel the public frenzy. But an executive quickly interrupts, telling them to focus on solutions instead of casting their blame. They must proceed with the critical meeting because the wild news of Park's return is spreading globally. Elite scouts from various international agencies are already moving in to recruit him. Russia sends Victor, a top agent representing the dangerous KGB. Then there is Gorenstein from Israel, also looking for the boy. Lastly, Nakamura arrives, the cold vice chief representing Tokyo's own powerful awakened federation. The director is highly irritated, asking if that absolute fool is back again. Miso confirms it, noting he already took Sung Woo from them. However, she still warns that America poses a much bigger threat to them. The director insists they must secure Park before anyone else can reach him. He asks if there are any other binding security options available. But the doctor smiles, sharing a very crucial detail about the boy. As long as his beloved family stays in Korea, he will never leave. Surprised, the director asks if he truly values his family over money. The doctor explains that after living with wolves for 1,000 years, he missed them. However, the strange reality of his situation is actually the complete opposite. Upon returning to Earth, he actually missed his old wild wolf pack immensely. The director remarks that the young protagonist is incredibly difficult to comprehend. But the doctor insists he simply wants to spend quiet time with them. In that sense, he is really just a completely ordinary guy at heart. Therefore, they should offer him a vast territory to live with them. Everything goes smoothly. Now, Park has absolutely no reason to turn against. The director agrees, but insists they must still find a way to stop other scouts from signing a contract with him. Miso then pulls up an image on the screen, pointing out an old abandoned factory. She suggests it would be perfect to hand over to the Sioux Guild, marking off the nearby land as private property. The director thinks the structures will be fine after repairs, and asks if Chu is still keeping a close eye on Park. Miso confirms she is indeed the perfect candidate to watch over him. Then the director asks if the girl has finally woken up, and Miso confirms she is recovering. He wonders if she is currently resting after writing her detailed report, but she suddenly claims that Park behaves like a dogman. This leaves the entire room completely stunned. The director immediately urges her to keep going. Cut to a massive, packed arena where the loud announcer welcomes screaming fans from all over the world. This is the ultimate tournament to find the strongest fighter on Earth, and the final match is finally starting. The crowd goes absolutely wild as the dark silhouette of a mysterious challenger appears. The announcer starts hyping up this legendary fighter, introducing him as the current rank #1 champion, defending his title for the 21st time with 45. Under his belt, he is the strongest warrior in human history and the ultimate hope for humanity in these dark, desperate times. His name is Akita Hiro. Next, that champion's blade begins leaking a sinister, dark energy. Up above, a mysterious woman silently watches the unfolding drama. Suddenly, Hiro leaps down, landing dead center. The next competitor steps up, and trust me, this S-rank human weapon is a rising star of this generation, undefeated in 13 brutal fights. His name is Michael. He dives straight into the ring and charges Hiro, shouting that the champion's reign ends today. Michael throws a heavy punch, but the young hero easily evades, refusing to back down. Michael unleashes a flurry of relentless strikes. Yet, the champion begins to counter, landing a lightning-fast combination of hits. Right on target, Michael's heavy armor completely cracks, but he suddenly pulls out a hidden blade from his wrist. Hiro slickly dodges and lands another devastating blow. But it is a trap. Michael manages to bind Hiro in heavy chains, grinning with sadistic pride. Now that he has caught the young champion, he immediately starts unleashing another assault, but Hiro just looks at him and calmly says he is already dead. Instantly, a fountain of blood spurts right out of Michael's mouth, sending absolute shockwaves through the stunned crowd. It is honestly hard to believe, but within mere seconds, Michael collapses straight onto the floor. The announcer screams in shock, asking what just happened to the challenger who was on such a legendary winning streak, yet he got utterly crushed in an instant. Medics rush into the ring to desperately treat him, but the fallen warrior does not even twitch. As the announcer calls the match, the referee quickly makes his official decision. Michael is completely unable to continue. With that, Hiro successfully defends his world title for the 22nd time. Right after The champion steps backstage. An associate asks if he used some secret new technique, but Hiro replies that he simply launched his sword aura and let it flow naturally. He warmly tells the crew they all did an incredible job today and suggests that they all go grab some celebratory drinks, but as he opens the dressing room door, right then she hugs him tightly, asking if he actually killed that man. Hiro admits that since Michael is destined to become a top-tier villain, maybe he should have. She sighs, he really needs to stop carrying the weight of the entire world alone. He quickly changes the subject, asking if anything weird happened while he was gone. Nothing major, she tells him, just a call from headquarters earlier. The director warned her to stay out of trouble, so they should get moving. Everyone is already waiting for them, so they need to get going. Meanwhile, that mysterious man from before is staring at his TV, watching the battle unfold. She mentions hearing a wild rumor about someone trapped deep inside a level 5 dungeon. Against all odds, he escaped, leaving the watching man completely paralyzed with shock. People are already calling him Korea's second Samu, and the hype is getting unreal. Even the Defense Department is showing a massive amount of interest in him. Instantly intrigued by this news, Hiro asks who this survivor actually is. Apparently, his name is Park, recalling the guy trapped in that level 5 gate. He was the same guy the media wouldn't stop talking about earlier. Tapping her screen, she shows Hiro all the data they have on him. Hiro stares at it. He has never seen this guy in any of his lifetimes. Since no swordsman has appeared in a year, he wonders about his class. Actually, the rumors say he is a druid from the 4th planet. If true, Earth might connect to it soon, a massive deal for an F rank. Hiro just smiles. To him, such a crazy idea is simply impossible. After all, he is currently on his 25th regression cycle. He has relived these exact events for roughly 500 years now. Every major figure destined to rise in the future is burned into his memory. The future is mapped out, yet this Park is completely absent from it. In 5 centuries, no one named Park Su ever made a single wave. Much less a returnee from some 4th planet, it makes no sense. Usually his actions barely shift the timeline, and this event only happens in 5 years. Besides, a brand new planet appearing right now simply makes absolutely zero sense. The girl then asks if they should try bringing this new guy to their side. Hiro stays quiet, genuinely unsure of how he should even answer that. She mentions his rising popularity, but Hiro urges her to wait. Soon the true apocalypse will begin, and no city will be safe. Humanity's remaining strongholds will crumble to dust, one by one, very soon. Massive dungeon breaks will unleash endless waves of monsters across the land. Terrifying beasts will completely dominate the skies, leaving no escape for anyone. With death everywhere, a massive, desperate exodus is bound to start. During this endless war, all past grudges will eventually be forgotten. Desperate for a final hope, Hiro decided to build his sanctuary. He chose Japan as his base, even though his countrymen called him a traitor. But by clearing their dungeons and recruiting elite talent, he will build a safe zone. That land will become the absolute best place for survivors to live. Besides, the Korean survivors never actually looked down on him as a traitor. To them, he was always just their protector, their ultimate savior. They called him by his name, always treating him like a true hero, but returning to. Back in the present, Hiro warns that this whole thing might just be a massive show. If it's a total fraud, recruiting Park later is going to be completely impossible. They must wait, observe a bit longer, and play this move extremely smart. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Miso walks right into the room where Troy is resting. She asks if it hurts. Troy looks up, nodding that it really does. Miso sits on the edge of her bed, teasing that she looks completely fine. Troy disagrees, but Miso has other things on her mind, like rumors. Apparently, a mysterious masked guy visits every single night and always leaves right before dawn. She asks if it's Park, no answer. Troy just keeps reading her digital tablet. Miso got lucky, sent the requested items, and even brought along some fresh food. Once Troy finishes eating, Miso jokingly tells her to get back to work already. No more slacking. Why are you still lying around in bed anyway? Troy begs for just one single hour of sleep, but Miso is having none of it. She is not letting her off the hook, not on her watch. Over at the CIA, agents are busy watching the breaking news about Hiro. One agent complains that Michael was taken down way too easily this time around. Another notes that Hiro is growing stronger at an absolute cheat-like speed. A triple S rank could appear soon, leaving everyone wondering where Park disappeared to. They didn't just vanish. Agents captured some highly detailed photos of them recently. The supervisor is completely baffled by these fresh spy photos. He looks at the image, wondering what the boy is doing at Seoul Station. The agent replies that Park has been visiting that exact station quite frequently. Maybe he's talking to pigeons. It is a pretty wild guess. Or maybe some girl rejected him and he is nursing a broken heart. He offers to introduce Park to some beautiful women to keep him happy. They absolutely cannot let anyone steal their primary protagonist away. Then he announces that their elite agents are leaving Korea this very morning. This sudden update catches the other agent completely off guard, leaving him utterly shocked. He mentions that the flight paths overhead look pretty dangerous right now. But get this, we immediately cut to a commercial, jet flying high. Inside, a little girl stares out the window, spotting what looks like a bird. She tells her mother to look at the pretty creature flying outside with them. Her mother looks, instantly freezing in absolute pure terror at the sight. A dragon is hovering right above them, though it is surprisingly small. Still, a literal dragon flying next to a passenger plane is utterly insane. Panic instantly erupts inside the entire passenger plane cabin. They whisper in terror, wondering if this creature is a dangerous wyvern. A passenger assures them it's young, so maybe nothing bad will happen. But why is a monster like this flying out in the open? He realizes a dangerous dungeon must have quietly spawned nearby. Suddenly, a massive wyvern shadows the entire plane from above. It immediately unleashes a devastating, explosive blast of pure fire. The jet explodes, plummeting toward the ground in a terrifying free fall. The dragon flies away, joining a pack of its terrifying companions. Back on the ground, Han drives through the chaos, muttering that the country is completely ruined. They get word they are almost there. Juno wonders if this is actually the place. Han stares in absolute disbelief, asking if they just pulled up to a haunted house. Before them stands a bizarre, towering structure that looks incredibly unsettling as Han walks closer. He walks up, it definitely has some major haunted house vibes. He starts complaining, is this dump seriously going to be their new guild headquarters? Will the guy installing the internet even agree to come out here? Right on cue, Choi chimed in to say she just spotted a ghost upstairs. Naturally, a massive debate breaks out over whether they should even step inside. Koi flatly refuses, declaring she could never survive living in a creepy place like this. Miso tries to quiet her down, saying she is just experiencing some minor culture shock. Since renovations start tomorrow, there is absolutely nothing for them to worry about. Park Vin shrugs and asks what the big deal is, because he actually loves the place. He is so down for it that he suggests moving in right this second. Choi marches over to Park, demanding to know if he has lost his mind. Miso remarks that guys with wild instincts always act on pure impulse. She wonders aloud if they should establish their boundaries to secure the area. This way they can claim exactly how much territory they want, Park starts to think. Right then he activates a strange ability, sending a bright light washing over the area. Everyone gasps in shock as glowing tree spirits begin to emerge from the light. The spirits drift to one spot, prompting Miso to ask what he is doing. Choi realizes it first. She points out that he is currently marking their territory. As the spirits work their magic, tiny green sprouts suddenly burst through the soil. In seconds, they shoot upward, transforming into a dense, towering forest right before their eyes. Seriously, watching a whole forest appear out of nowhere is absolutely wild. Park lets out a breath and announces that his work here is officially done. The border stretches about 1 kilometer from the house, marking their official boundary line. Grinning widely, Miso says it looks incredible and makes a major, official declaration. Starting today, this entire zone is officially claimed as the Sugal Guild territory. This means absolutely everything inside this forest now belongs solely to their guild. Park asks if they are being a bit too generous for a temporary stay. Miso just laughs it off, saying they are simply following standard government protocol. Besides, her entire department already views Park as a vital member of the family. Park admits he likes that. Almost immediately, Miso asks him to sign a contract. Choi warns him to read it carefully, but Miso pushes him to just sign. With the signature secured, it looks like their official agreement is finally sealed. Everyone agrees to give it their all until the massive portal finally opens up. Park promises to hold up his end of the bargain, and Miso smiles reassuringly. She tells him to trust the government as they get into the car. Choi snaps that they better send the crew immediately, or she is walking away. As they leave, an irritated Miso mutters that Choi is becoming a major headache. One man wonders if such a small group can manage this massive territory. Miso smirks, planning to use any struggle to send in her own people. Because of this, she demands a full list of high-level combatants to be prepared. They need to have level 5 fighters on standby. Meanwhile, the scene suddenly shifts. Out on the open ocean, ruthless bandits try to board a mysterious ship. Screaming that they just hit the jackpot, the bandits open fire. The panicked crew grows desperate, immediately screaming out for help. They frantically broadcast SOS distress signals to anyone nearby. Right then, the raiders begin boarding. "Start the engines," someone yells. Hide in the engine room, but even that is not going to save them. Suddenly, sheer chaos erupts. Within seconds, the entire crew is flung into the air. A massive tentacle rises. A gigantic beast is trying to swallow the ship. The vessel begins to sink into the dark ocean below. The captain loses his footing, tumbling helplessly into the freezing water. In an instant, a colossal sea monster appears directly in front of him. It devours him whole. Mutated, bizarre sharks circle beneath the waves. As they patrol, a rescue helicopter finally flies over the area. The pilot reports they have reached the exact coordinates sent by the boat. But after searching a 16-kilometer radius, they find absolutely nothing. Meanwhile, the massive tentacle glides below, targeting yet another vessel. Back at our main character's clan house, things are looking very different. The tree spirit works its magic on the forest, renovating the entire property. Amidst the ongoing changes, Troy's phone begins to buzz loudly. She is fast asleep, but eventually groggily groans and answers it. On the other end, Miso teases her about having too much fun at the house. Half awake, Troy asks what she means. She is still on duty after all. Miso then asks if she's with Park. The sleepy girl admits she has no idea. Annoyed by the answer, Miso calls her lazy and demands to know why. Urged to finally get out of bed, Troy stands up and sees a colossal tree right outside. Sipping her morning coffee, she marvels at how much Park has managed to plant. He did all of this so quickly, and the forest is already fully grown. She admires the towering, beautiful tree as several giant wolves roam the yard. Nearby, multiple holographic system screens pop up right in front of Park. They display detailed stats on each of the loyal wolves. He begins renaming them all, but the system issues a grim warning. If their dimensional energy surpasses his own, fusion could break his sanity. Looking over the warnings, Park wonders if he can still safely level them up. Just then, Troy walks over and asks him what he is up to. He calmly tells her he is simply naming his family members. Troy pouts, saying he should have woken her instead of going off alone. Suddenly, the little pup runs up. she is shocked by how fast it is growing. Park explains that the others headed out early to clear some dungeons. Koi is genuinely impressed by how hard they work in this brutal heat. Park grins, asking if she wants to take a walk to cool down. Before she can answer, he transforms and playfully tells her to hop on. She climbs aboard, teasingly asking if he is just trying to show off. Park just tells her to hold on tight before suddenly blasting forward. He runs at lightning speed, leaving her breathless and begging him to slow down. Nearby, the loyal pack of giant wolves dashes alongside them in perfect unison. Far away in another dark corridor, a mysterious man asks if nothing remains. He called in to report, mentioning that headquarters wanted updates, but it had been 2 months since anyone last left the house. He asked if anyone crossed the boundary line. The other guard pointed to the security cameras, saying the military would deploy instantly if anyone tried, and since nobody knew the exact moment the portal might burst open, 2 units would remain stationed nearby. Just then, a car appeared. The man noted that it was the Suva clan vehicle. Shortly after, their truck left the premises, driving off toward a specific destination. Inside the cabin, Shuno complained about the heat, but the reporters still refused to leave them alone. Meanwhile, Han was browsing YouTube, looking up fresh information about the mysterious protagonist. Wondering what he saw, Shuno asked what he was staring at. Han claimed it was nothing, though he seemed deeply lost in thought. He wondered why so many countries were sending massive donations to Park Suho. Even weirder, the biggest sums came from incredibly powerful foreign scouts. Then, glancing sideways, they spotted Park Suho and Troy walking with giant wolves running right beside them. Troy waved and Han called her his new sister-in-law, instantly irritating her. Han joked that if she lived with and helped Park Suho, she was basically family, adding that the guy did not want to give them a ride. Watching them, he remarked how fast Park Suho was running, prompting Shuno to accelerate, refusing to lose to a human, and trust me, neither of them wanted to back down. Glancing back, Troy noticed something strange, asking if the boy felt it as well. Watching closely, she confirmed they were witnessing a dimensional break within a 200-meter radius, a flashback of Park Suho and Troy in the hospital played out. She asked what kind of world he had lived on. The young man replied that he survived the animal kingdom, a savage place, crawling with deadly monsters, carrying dimensional energy levels over 700. Honestly, anyone would be terrified. That level of raw power is just completely insane. Park Suho explained that it was a world of non-stop survival wars. The bloody territory battles never ceased until one opponent lay dead. To lead, you needed to be Urank, and even then he faced endless challenges. Of years back in the present, Koi realized that with the bridge portal linking to that world, free passage was open for both sides. If Park Suho spoke the truth, their world would become a war zone where humanity must clash with hostile creatures from a terrifying foreign world, forcing them to fight monsters with energy levels above S-class. The camera cut to Troy speaking with the director, asking if Park Suho's planet would show any mercy. The director questioned why she was even anxious, reminding her that Park Suho was the king there. The scene shifted back to the duo. Troy asked why he claimed to be king. Park Suho replied that if the current leader found out how weak he had become compared to before, they would hunt him down instantly. Troy, utterly bewildered, realized his grim logic made perfect sense. She told him to run flat out toward the northeastern field because they had to get far away from the crowded city. They immediately bolted into the bushes. Han, meanwhile, wondered where they were going and decided to follow closely. They move fast. As they push forward in the same direction, a blinding beam of light starts to appear. Troy points out that the portal is opening right as the space around them begins to warp, leaving her completely baffled by the bizarre sight. Before long, Miso gets a call. Troy warns her that the unstable gate is finally about To materialize, a confused Miso asks for details, while Troy demands that the gate coordinates be sent straight to the guard units. Moments later, several military convoys roll in, prepping heavy missiles for a potential strike. Park spots a detail, noting this is not the planet he visited, but just a normal dungeon gate. Troy wonders how he can be so sure. Without using any high-tech gear, at that exact moment, the young man stops. Muttering that this vibe is totally different from his own crossing, Troy explains that his previous gate was a teleportation route typically utilized by other returnees. That explains it, but then Troy suddenly realizes something else. Thinking that now that she has stopped to ponder, the cosmic signature of the teleportation gate Park used was far stronger than a simple bridge. Portal. Back then, she assumed her gear was glitching, suspecting that maybe her own instincts were misfiring. Even so, her deep gut feelings are shouting that a massive danger is looming, but regardless of her doubts, this appears to be a standard gate, though she still questions its true nature. The other soldiers watching the event whisper that it could be a massive dimensional break. Shortly after, a fleet of vehicles pulls up at the coordinates. A soldier notes that the Department Detection Squad has arrived. Right on cue, heavy military choppers begin circling directly overhead. The commander gasps in shock, confirming a portal is active and fearing a rift. Suddenly, another blinding pillar of light floods the entire landscape. A brand new gate materializes right before their eyes, and Troy quickly confirms it is a dungeon gate, realizing Park possesses much sharper senses than her own, despite her holding the title of best tracker in the country. Shortly after, our hero's brother's car is spotted as Hans and the processor walk over. Hans loudly declares that an active gate has opened, wondering if it links to an undiscovered planet. Right then, two more vehicles arrive and armed soldiers step out, identifying as the 11th Detection Squad. They quickly set up their high-tech measuring equipment. Juno curiously asks what the gear does, and a female technician explains it calculates the threat level and when the gate will break. As they run the final scans, the reading 4280 pops up. A specialist informs them that it is only a level 4 threat. Park grunts that it will suffice, while a clearly underwhelmed Miso asks if it is truly that low. Soon after, the girl changes outfits, stating that since Park claims this is not his original gate, she feels it is absolutely necessary to go inside and inspect the place. Suddenly, the scene shifts to the director on a call, demanding to know if it is truly just a level 4 threat. Miso answers that nothing is set in stone, as they must first verify if this dungeon actually links to our protagonist's former world. Hearing this, the exasperated chief sighs deeply, knowing this could mean trouble. It was driving the director crazy. He asked if Miso knew how much cash they had wasted on this. Miso calmly repeated they could not be sure yet since Park's skill level was insanely high. The director argued that if the first portal opened right next to a newly returned survivor, it was almost certainly a dungeon. He then questioned if Miso even knew who had funded and trusted this project. Miso responded that Park was immensely valuable just for being an irregular. A heated argument erupted between them. Finally, the director ordered them to find a way to fix this mess, warning that failing to recover the cash meant they would be ruined. Meanwhile, back with Park, the full briefing had just wrapped up. One of the experts warned that the dungeon would break in 50 days, so they needed to send in Park, who casually remarked this schedule worked for him. Another expert mentioned Park still had to clear a level 4 dungeon. Park asked if that would actually be tough considering how small their current guild was. The man assured him it would be simple. He explained that while the energy measuring device was standard gear for guilds, the absolute newest model cost around 3 billion. Hearing that, Park noted that was pretty expensive, but the guy quickly revealed they had been cleared to lease the device permanently for this specific gate. He asked Park to sign the lease paperwork, our protagonist, watching all this play out. Asked why they were showering him with so many freebies, the guy simply smiled and said even if he was not a returnee from a new planet, the department would never dream of treating him poorly. He added that foreign nations had been aggressively trying to recruit him lately. Because of that, he should know the department viewed him as family. As the country's treasurer, he had been told to pass this sentiment along, but Park just looked confused, saying he had not received any offers from abroad. Right on cue, Han showed up, asking if he could have a quick private chat. He quickly explained that at this very moment, global competition for Park was insanely fierce, and since Park barely used the internet, Han had been receiving massive donations. Naturally, Park wanted to know the exact amount. Han dropped a 5 billion figure. The protagonist gently placed a hand on Han's shoulder, warning him that no matter how much he loved money, he must not become a slave to wealth. He explained that as time passes, you realize that having a true companion to talk to is far better than any sum of money. Han sat down, promising to keep those words in mind. He then explained that the foreign countries really wanted Park to at least review their generous offers. Han admitted he had promised to present 3 specific proposals. Park asked what Han actually did. Han replied that the nations were not going to send assassins just for ignoring their initial proposals. Park told him to just lie and say he did, but got ignored. He then told Han to grab Chuno and get changed for their trip back. Han agreed, saying he would keep a small cut of the donations and send the rest to their treasury. Our protagonist shrugged, telling him to do whatever he wanted. Han, absolutely thrilled by how generous Park was, realized he had just pocketed well over 3 billion won. Some time passed. Park eventually gathered everyone, asking if they were fully prepared because they were entering the dungeon right now. Suddenly, the department official showed up again, urging them to halt because a specialized combat unit from the department was rushing over. But Park instantly declined, saying if they really needed to inspect the contract, he only allows a maximum of 2 people. Even worse, they are strictly forbidden from participating in the hunt. Troy shrugs it off. They are ready, but the inspector is skeptical. He warns them that the inspector should know a level 4 dungeon is tough. Cho instantly snaps at him to shut up and do his job. Just focus on recording. Suddenly, their fluffy canine companion trots over. Park thinks it should tag along to level up. They step inside. They step through the portal. Instantly, the entire atmosphere shifts around them. Finding themselves in completely unknown territory, Park admits he is lost. Cho starts scanning the surroundings, though Park thinks the area looks familiar. The inspector panics, asking why they are strolling through a dungeon so casually. Han smiles. Since Park is leading, there is absolutely nothing to fear. Wait, stop. Cho suddenly signals a halt, her entire expression tightening. She detects 3 monsters 70 meters ahead. Han instantly draws his weapon. The inspector doubts a single blade is enough, but Han just grins. Juno draws his sword with a wild, crazed look. The inspector is baffled as Juno suddenly charges headfirst toward the beasts. Park swiftly knocks him cold with a single punch. Wake him up, Park tells Han. The inspector yells, demanding to know why Park would do such a thing. Cho explains that Juno turns into a complete psycho the second he holds a sword. Han slaps his cheeks to wake him. Meanwhile, Park senses danger. Something is rustling dangerously in the bushes, and Park freezes. Back up, Park commands. Suddenly, a beast leaps out. It charges. Everyone drops into a defensive stance, braced for impact. But Park, watch this. He launches himself straight toward the threat. The inspector records as a pack of beasts swarms Park. He slices them to pieces, moving like a flash of lightning. The system awards 48 conquest points, but they cannot rest. More beasts could be hiding nearby. Park is amazed by his speed. Is this real? He quickly shakes it off and calls Juno over. They need to harvest the magic stones from the monster corpses. The inspector mutters that Juno seems totally normal until he holds a weapon. Pure psychopath, Cho tells him to quiet down and keep moving. Park announces he will clear the way, so they better stay alert. As they pocket the stones, the inspector watches them with deep concern. He honestly questions if sending interns into this place is a good idea. They are dealing with a rookie and a literal psychopath, after all. Park whistles for his dog, telling it to go lure some more beasts. The dog happily barks and vanishes into the dark forest. Cho and the inspector exchange worried glances as they wait. What if a massive horde comes charging back all at once? Just keep recording, Cho whispers, her voice sounding tense. Moments later, the ground begins to violently shake. They are coming. The inspector panics, completely terrified by the sudden rumbling. Juno starts twitching, and Han tells him to take a deep breath. Forget the tranquilizer. Juno was completely consumed by madness, recklessly charging the beasts. Right then, the beast dog reappeared, just as a stray arrow went flying straight toward it. Juno narrowly dodged the projectile, charging ahead to slice into one of his targets. Pressing the advantage, he easily put the creature down for good. The observer screamed a warning to look out. Another monster was creeping up behind him. But the threat was already neutralized, because Han had quietly flanked it from behind. With his trusty crossbow, Han teamed up with Juno to take the beast out. Their clean teamwork paid off, pushing Han all the way to level 9. Watching them, the recorder stood stunned, questioning if this was actually a level 4 dungeon. Cho sarcastically asked if he preferred a level 3 instead, telling him to keep quiet. He needed to focus on filming rather than complaining, but suddenly the dog tensed up. Park noticed the animal was on high alert. That's when a beast burst out. It lunged from the thick brush, forcing the protagonist to instantly draw his sharp dagger. Meanwhile, back in the city, a car pulled up through a dense crowd. An eager official welcomed the sector director, but Miso demanded to know his deal. She asked if he had some sort of death wish for blocking the road. The arrogant guy replied that he would only budge if a real emergency happened. He noted that Captain Lee's elite strike squad had recently mobilized to this area. Sending a combat squad meant they were dealing with a serious level 4 threat. The newly spawned portal was likely the target. Hearing this, Miso went silent. She paused, then sharply ordered her crew to clear the road immediately. The young man threw out a sarcastic thanks, muttering about how she wasted his time. He shrugged it off as just a simple level 4 dungeon team returning. They began packing up their gear while Miso's car sped toward the zone. Her associate noted that this entire operation was supposed to be strictly confidential. He worriedly asked what they would do if the media caught wind of it. Miso countered by asking what mattered more, corrupt politicians playing games or the protagonist. Her driver had to admit that the kid was definitely the bigger priority. Miso warned that if the public discovered Park was actually a dungeon survivor, the resulting media circus would be absolutely insane. The associate wondered if he would survive. Miso explained that was exactly why they had to reach him first. They needed to secure a safe solution before things spiraled out of control. At the gate, the combat teams prepared to breach. The captain rallied his troops. He declared they were clearing out some beasts, but a soldier called out. He reported that headquarters had ordered them to halt their advance immediately. The captain demanded to know why, just as Miso's car screeched to a halt. Stepping out of the vehicle, she directly greeted the annoyed military leader. Miso flatly told him he could not go inside, sparking instant confusion. She explained that until Park agreed to cooperate, the combat squad was benched. Crossing into the gate was strictly off-limits. The furious captain scoffed at this. He demanded to know what kind of complete nonsense she was pulling. They had rewritten their entire schedule to rush down here for nothing. Miso calmly countered that unforeseen circumstances made their entry completely impossible. He snapped back, arguing there was an obvious loophole in their formal agreement. Sending only a green scouting team into danger made absolutely zero sense. She explained they wanted to edit the contract, arriving to fix things. It was a direct mess tied straight to the director. Annoyed, the man grumbles while Miso stays totally cool. She suggests moving to the car, and just like that, the scene shifts. The director stares at the news on his screen, muttering about a major mistake. He needed a deeper investigation before dropping any sort of official statement. Right then, the frustrated man gets a call, growing even more impatient. He snaps, "Why is Miso still not picking up?" Next, we see a massive building. Inside, the doctor studies Park's files, looking at his tragic past. To him, Park is the definition of a broken dream on this Korean soil. This feels like a major turning point in a life full of endless conflict. He remembers the strange claims of that mysterious returnee. Park had talked about hiding by the coast, gathering wild fruit. The ocean provided plenty of food, but his safety did not last. He quickly realized that he could never hope to settle down in that place. A massive monster was always circling nearby, hunting for its next meal. The doctor freezes. There is no way an ocean exists in this dungeon. What does this mean? He questions everything. Could an entire world actually be swallowed up to create a dungeon? A flashback shows Park asking for help to find his brother. The doctor agreed, demanding the full tale of his 500 years. Now back in the present, he waits for him to deliver. He notes that the young returnee had promised to reveal everything. Once he finally reunited with his brother, still for an F rank. The guy seems remarkably ordinary, almost way too normal. Yet he supposedly survived as the jungle king for centuries. Now the doctor deeply regrets making such a hasty decision. Meanwhile, back inside the dungeon, Park is busy slaying beasts. His cold eyes watch as he drops them, one by one. The spectator watches in total awe, dodging an ambush like that is insane. Park shrugs and tells him to stop staring and start gathering the loot. The man quickly gets to work. Soon, the group pushes deeper inside. Kiwi looks around, amazed by the eerie beauty, while Han can barely believe his eyes. He points out a glowing stone, noting its dark, heavy aura despite looking like a gem. Park admits he has never seen this place, yet a strange familiarity washes over him. Up ahead, they spot another stone block, drawing their attention. An ancient inscription warns visitors to turn back and never return. As Park examines the warning, Kiwi asks if this is just another of Han's jokes. Han denies it immediately, prompting Kiwi to brush it off as nothing. Kiwi asks if the camera is rolling, and he confirms he's got it all. Suddenly, she spots Park climbing up toward a higher ledge. The rest of the group quickly follows him, discovering a hidden path. A massive concealed cavern opens up right before their eyes. Han is stunned. He gasps, pointing out the strange carvings covering the ancient walls. The entire group stands frozen in shock at what they just stumbled upon. The strange inscriptions on the wall are incredibly confusing and completely catch them off guard. Even stranger, the writing literally states that it deeply missed having humans around. Bizarre drawings are also scattered across these dark cave walls. They soon spot a massive message confessing to missing old enemies, family, and even a brother. Han freezes in utter disbelief because the name Junho is carved right there. Right next to it, another line clearly states that Park Suho lived in this place. That is when the shocking truth finally hits them. They understand everything now. Han points out these look like ancient cave paintings, probably carrying massive scientific value. Choi slowly approaches Park to ask if he actually used to live in this cavern. The boy says nothing. He just keeps his intense, sharp gaze locked on the distance. It has been 500 years since he became the master of Moon Hill. Back then, his fiercest opponent was a massive black tiger that shared that exact same look. Every single clash against that beast was a struggle for absolute survival. Choi gently asks if he is doing all right as he stares quietly at the writings. He is completely lost in his memories, reliving every single battle he fought here. Suddenly, a realization hits him, while Han continues searching deeper into the cave. Han points out a few unfinished blades, wondering how someone crafted such shiny stone. Right then, the boy bolts forward, leaving a confused Han yelling after him. Choi instantly takes off after the kid as he races toward a completely different path. His frantic sprint finally leads him straight to the peak of a high mountain. Standing at the peak, he stares in shock at the altered landscape. Choi catches up, asking if this is really the place he used to live. Park confirms it, but points out the entire layout is completely wrong now. A massive snow-covered peak stands where lush fruit trees are supposed to be. And even stranger, the sea is supposed to lie just over in that direction. Choi is completely stunned, asking if there is actually an ocean nearby. Park warns that Maelstrom 12 is a zone nobody should ever enter. Choi highly doubts if an entire ocean could even exist in a level 4 dungeon. She asks if he was truly the one who carved those lonely messages inside. Yes, he admits it was his desperate attempt to not forget civilized human life. In the beginning, he hid in that cave just to escape wild beasts. But even after moving out, he returned occasionally to write more messages. Choi then wonders if those dangerous lizard men have always occupied this area. He shakes his head, prompting her to ask what happened to his old animal friends. He explains this is leopard territory and they would never flee from lizard men. Choi points ahead, asking if he can see the thick mist blocking their path. That heavy fog marks the boundary, meaning they cannot go any further. Just then, a suspicious rustling noise begins echoing through the dense trees. Choi tenses up, immediately questioning if those scaly beasts are heading their way. Park quickly senses a trap. They are walking straight into a deadly ambush. Dozens of hostile lizard men start scaling the rocky cliffs toward them. Meanwhile, Han and his group are still climbing up high above the boy. Choi reports that a total of 102 lizard men are approaching. She wonders why they are swarming at once, especially since even more weight below. Just beneath their feet, an entire army of monsters is starting to gather. That lizard king wore a bizarre skull on his head. Park stared at it. Guessing it was from one of the leopards he had fought, he told Choi to stay back with her group. Then he leaped off the mountain, plunging toward the swarming monsters. A panicked Choi screamed out, asking what he was doing when the view shifted back to that woman from before watching a pigeon. Suddenly, a blue energy wrapped around the bird. Back on the mountain, Choi gasped as Park suddenly sprouted wings, soaring straight for that monster. In response, the lizard king hurled his spear, but Park easily dodged the weapon. Within a couple of seconds, he was right in front of the giant lizard. Suddenly, a blue energy enveloped his summoned dog, and Park instantly transformed into a powerful wolf. Launching a savage attack on the beast, together they crashed down into the thick brush. Choi stared in sheer disbelief at the insane stunt. Soon, Han arrived on the mountain. With the rest of the group, Choi reassured them that everything was fine since their leader was still alive. Meanwhile, the enemy lizard men kept climbing up the mountain. Choi warned everyone that the beasts were only 30 meters away and closing fast, so they needed to prepare. The other guy quickly hauled up a massive boulder, claiming he was ready for blood. Han aimed his crossbow, daring the monsters to try climbing up. To face them, nearby, a weaponless Junho also picked up a heavy rock. As the lizards drew closer to their position, Han pulled his trigger, firing. Bolt, let's see if Park can survive this. He was locked in a brutal clash, and he was rapidly gaining the upper hand. With a powerful grip, he ripped away the skull helmet and demanded to know where the leopards went, but the creature was already dead. Up on the mountain, Park's allies were still desperately holding off the relentless lizard horde. One of them asked if long-range magic used up more dimensional energy than close combat. Han replied that there was no set power limit, but efficiency completely depended on their current level. Just then, Choi screamed out that more monsters were coming. Junho gripped his two melee weapons. Han muttered that the guy was going crazy again, and they must not let him jump. Suddenly the other guy spotted something bizarre. High up, the protagonist and the dead monster were falling through the air, completely shocked by the chaotic scene. Meanwhile, the scaling lizard men had almost breached the mountain peak. That was when Park delivered a devastating final blow. Seeing the danger, the other guy yelled to find cover as the massive lizard boss slammed hard into the mountainside. The system pinged, announcing that Park had successfully leveled up and unlocked a brand new wind ability. The resulting blast sent several monsters plunging into free fall, but the mountain peak also began to crumble. Choi frantically screamed for everyone to stay down, but it was completely useless as they all slipped, falling toward the ground along with the tumbling beasts. A massive landslide buried everything, but Choi luckily managed to pull herself out, immediately calling out to check if anyone was still alive. Right on cue, the other guy groaned that he was fine, while Han sighed with relief. Incredibly glad to be breathing. Beside him, Junho slowly sat up, fully conscious. Park, shifting back into his human form, told them to move because the portal was finally open. Everyone scrambled to their feet, eager to return home, but a mysterious watcher observed them, murmuring what the actual point of this whole ordeal was. Meanwhile, back home, the portal remained dangerously active. Elsewhere, Miso stood ready with it. Soldiers were waiting outside as our protagonist finally emerged from that place. Meanwhile, a guard silently observed them, realizing the group had returned entirely intact without a single scratch. Looking closely, he asked if that kid was really Park Suho, since he looked pretty weak. Then Miso walked right up to greet him, but the boy suddenly transformed into a pigeon and flew away. The other soldier watched this happen, completely stunned, wondering if the kid actually turned into a pigeon. Meanwhile, Miso asked if something went wrong, and Choi told her to leave if negotiation was off. Miso immediately demanded to know about the recording, but Choi told her to just head back to headquarters with Chief Kim. However, the girl insisted that she needed to tag along with them too. Choi then asked for the reason, and she explained her mission to observe Park was over. Right now, because of that, she had been reassigned, plus she had received orders to assist at the border field near the north region of Due. Another guard mentioned that 4 portal management members would stay behind, since that was the bare minimum needed to keep the equipment running. Chunho shook the officer's hand, telling him to relax because they would treat them well. Meanwhile, another guard watched Chunho with sheer surprise, noticing how completely different the brother looked in real life. Next, we see the other guy arguing, demanding to know what Choi meant by going back. Did they not agree to cooperate with Park? But Miso just told him to go back and negotiate his salary. Besides, the director was waiting for him, meaning they had to leave immediately. The man argued that salary was not the problem, wanting to know why Park refused them. As their argument heated up, Han and Chunho watched from the sidelines. Han muttered that the guy's annoying voice was getting on his nerves. Chunho just told him to drop it as the camera cuts to buses driving away. Suddenly, Miso got a frantic call demanding to know where she was, and if she leaked everything to the press. Miso calmly replied that everyone was currently retreating except for the management team, asking them to sort it out later. Shortly after, a man showed off a recording where a Korean inscription clearly appeared on screen, asking if everyone noticed it. Using those carvings, they actually discovered Park Suho's diary written directly on the walls of the cave. In the footage, the boy suddenly leaped up and threw the Lizard King aside. The presenter admitted that, unfortunately, he could not capture more inside the dungeon, though he managed to record plenty once outside. Soon after, someone spotted the boy's strange form and questioned if that was a pigeon. The presenter confirmed it, guessing the beast was probably just some tamed animal. That marked the end of the tape. Then, a white-haired man remarked How terrifying it was to see the boy overpower the Lizard King like that. The director frowned, asking if a level 4 dungeon boss is normally around. Rank B, however, the presenter quickly corrected him, stating it was actually Rank A, meaning the boy completely destroyed a top-tier monster with ease. The director gasped, wondering if Park Suho is actually above rank S, but Choi explained that while his dimensional energy is only rank E, his combat skills are. He can hit S+ after fusion, depending on the beast. In fact, they believe his ceiling is triple S. Unbelievable. Unlike other awakened ones, Park Suho has absolutely no limits on his abilities. It is insane. The white-haired guy asks if all regulars are this broken. Troy has to admit he does not actually know if they are all like that. Right then, the director speaks up. What was his status before he returned? The guy points out that if everyone who vanished in the cataclysm returned like him, their country would be extremely powerful, think unstoppable. But the presenter counters, going through a portal empty-handed is basic suicide. Because of that, there is almost zero chance of others like him. Either way, the director notes that even the first tests proved something massive. They proved he is a returnee, straight from a dangerous level 4 dungeon. But Troy stays cautious, warning they cannot be completely sure of that yet. The director sighs. He hates to admit it, but this is clearly not a new planet. What really matters right now is the secret of Park Suho's power inside that dungeon. So why is Park Suho blocking their scouts, even after signing a contract? The man thinks he is hiding secrets. Honestly, can you blame him? But Troy defends him, saying Park Suho is simply not that kind of person. Miso suggests trying to negotiate with him a little bit more. The director snaps back. What more could the kid possibly want from them? After all, they have already offered the boy more than enough. Exactly, Miso responds, and that is precisely why he is refusing. Furious, Troy storms out of the room, muttering about their greedy schemes. Meanwhile, the guy speaks to Miso, if she can fill her squad. Squad 37 with 80 C-rankers, he will take charge and find Park Suho. That way, the issues with the minister's massive investment will easily be resolved. The director smiles. Keeping all the dungeon spoils for themselves already sounds amazing. They would stand to earn 3 times their usual amount from this run. Plus, they will bag an insane 780% bonus on top. What bribe is next? The director asks Miso what will buy them full access. Miso calmly asks if they do not already have plenty of leverage left. Elsewhere on a quiet plantation, a young kid asks Monk Mongjin a question. He wonders if the monk is going to harvest the ripe tomatoes today. Not just tomatoes, the monk replies they are picking peppers and potatoes too. Inside the shed, one of the kids brags about picking 100 tomatoes. The other shouts that they will harvest 200, competitive little things. Another kid chimes in, saying Zhang Yan promised to make delicious roasted potatoes. Monk Mongjin orders them all to grab their hoes and start digging. But as they work, a creep with deeply sinister eyes watches from hiding. Suddenly, the scene cuts to a soldier shouting, they have 10 minutes left. They need to verify their headcount and inspect all their equipment immediately. The other soldiers report back that everything is perfectly ready and cleared. No detection issues whatsoever. Meanwhile, Choi is completely glued to her phone. She casually reports that Detection Team 11 has absolutely no problems. The soldiers confirm the launch as their armored tank begins to roll out. Choi keeps texting away while the soldiers swap rumors about the upcoming mission. Rumor had it that the Jew border was absolute hell on earth because of all the dungeon breaches. A teammate doubts that their detection squad would run the front lines, asking if that is actually true. Choi confirms that it is indeed, which is why they should write their wills and send them to their families before they lose all cell signal. Elsewhere, a quiet house sits where Park is resting. Soon, his phone rings with an incoming call from Choi, but he stays completely asleep. Nearby, Han taps away at his computer, noting that Park has been sleeping way more than normal lately, since everyone knows he is just a survivor from a level 4 dungeon. His channel donations should have stopped, but the numbers on screen leave him completely stunned. Just then, Junho walks into the room, and Han. He tells him to knock next time. Junho apologizes, jokingly asking if he is doing something illegal. On there before asking if that weird monk had called them yet, but Han says there is no sign of him. Junho cannot reach him either, worrying if something bad happened. Han jokes that maybe the monk reached true divine enlightenment, but either way, he is probably just slacking off or playing with kids somewhere. Looking closer, Junho asks what he is holding. Han explains that his grandmother worried he was hallucinating because of a major vitamin deficiency, so she bought him these supplements. Han then asks if Park is not sleeping way too much lately, and Junho agrees, planning to wake him up. Meanwhile, inside his room, Park is actually already wide awake right now. Staring quietly at the massive tree in front of him, he had always suspected he could reunite with his old friends once the portal finally opened. But this returned land is just a fraction of that world, and instead of finding his old allies, the place is overrun by bizarre red lizards he has never seen. Now he has absolutely no clue where his red wolf family is hiding. To make worse, his ultimate rival, Kuro, might be roaming with that giant gorilla he battled before. He wonders where they are now, or if they fled somewhere else entirely out of fear for those lizards, but he shrugs it off, deciding it does not really matter. If they are destined to meet, they will cross paths again. Suddenly, Junho opens the door, asking if he is awake and ready to grab some food. Park tells him he has been up for a while, sleeping so long that he barely even realized his own hunger. As the two leave, Choi is still desperately trying to call his phone. Sometime later, Park sits down to have dinner with the guys, casually asking where that blonde girl went. His friends look at him in absolute shock.